There were hundreds of human sects of various sizes in the immortal world. The martial Yuan sect was considered one of the medial class ones. The most famous sect in the entire immortal world was called the Immortal Spirit sect. There were countless mighty figures inside. It was said that as long as one stepped into the Immortal Spirit sect, they would no longer have to worry in the immortal world. It was vast and covered dozens of immortal mountains. There were countless vassal sects or demons around it. It was said that the Immortal Spirit sect was a place that everyone in the immortal world yearned for, especially those idol cultivators. If they had the chance to enter the Immortal Spirit sect, it would be a huge opening for their future cultivation path. The immortal world was not like the lower realm where there were no rules at all. Most of the places here were prohibited from fighting with each other. Moreover, the entire immortal world was enveloped in a powerful array formation. Each of the sects was in charge of their area. If anyone dared to cause trouble in a specific area, the law enforcement team would arrive in an extremely short period of time. Ordinary people did not dare to cause trouble. If they were targeted by the law enforcers, it would be difficult to shake them off. Li Yuanqing obtained a token from Zhao Baoyun to enter the martial Yuan sect. Although their tokens were all the lowest level servant tokens, without this token, they could not even enter the sect protection array outside. There were also 2 immortal pills. The greatest use of this pill was that it could help people in the lower realm transform their flesh, blood, and meridians. Generally speaking, those who could rise from the lower realm to the immortal world had been baptized by the lightning tribulation. Their bodies had already been forged and could fit into the environment of the immortal world. This immortal pill was a shortcut to body tempering. In Li Yuanqing's domain space, 2 huge cocoons floated in midair, faintly emitting a red light that jumped between breaths. There was an incense burner beside him. In the middle of the incense burner was a slender incense stick that was about to burn to the roots. According to Zhao Baoyun, this immortal pill could basically succeed in an instant. There were very few failures. However, the incense stick was almost finished, and the 2 of them did not have any signs of breaking out of the cocoon. Could something have happened? Li Yuanqing turned around and appeared in a very simple wooden house. The interior of the wooden house was very simple. It was just some simple wood stacked together, but the structure was very exquisite and looked very sturdy. The house was filled with a very strong fragrance of wood, mixed with the faint smell of rotting plants. When he walked out of the house, he could see that the periphery of the wooden house was filled with all kinds of flowers and spiritual herbs. These flowers took root in the wooden house and grew very vigorously. Looking out, a very vast medicinal field surrounded the house, surrounding the entire house in the middle. Outside the medicinal field were 3 towering hills. This large medicinal field surrounded by 3 slopes was one of the medicinal gardens of the martial Yuan sect. The medicinal fields extended towards the hillside and only stopped halfway up the mountain. Every medicinal field here was a square that was 10 feet square. There were more than 1,000 cubes evenly pasted in every corner of the valley. All of this had to be taken care of by Li Yuanqing and the other 2. This was a lucrative job. Li Yuanqing had spent a lot of demon cores to get this job. However, the demon cores were collected by the Black Dragon anyway. There was nothing to feel bad about spending them. After Li Yuanqing passed through the Immortal Ascension door from the lower realm, he immediately rushed to the medicinal garden of the sect. He was anxious to complete the transformation of Hujuzhou and Little Man. Just now, he had only given a simple notice to Zhao Baoyun. Zhao Baoyun seemed to have something on just now and had yet to rush over. There were restrictions around the medicinal field. Without a special token, it was impossible to approach it. Li Yuanqing stood at the periphery of the medicinal field and looked at the lush medicinal herbs growing inside. Above each medicinal field was a transparent shed condensed from an array formation. The shed was as tall as 2 people. It was filled with green plants that squeezed the shed. The spiritual energy in the immortal world was thousands of times richer than in the lower realm, and the spiritual energy in these medicinal fields was dozens of times denser. One could see that the dense spiritual energy had turned into turbid white liquid. It dripped from the leaves of the plant and landed in the soil. It slowly seeped in and was crazily absorbed by the plant's roots. Li Yuanqing looked at these plants. He could even see with the naked eye that these things were constantly changing. They seemed to have grown bigger every moment, especially the strange fruit in front of him. This fruit was red, narrow at the top and wide at the bottom like a gourd. However, it did not have a particularly thin waist. It should be said that it looked like a pumpkin. This red pumpkin was crystal clear and emitted a sparkling red light. It looked very tender, making people want to take a bite just by looking at it from outside. This is the fire spirit fruit. It contains the richest fire attribute spiritual energy. Whether it's used to cultivate fire attribute secret manuals or refine fire attribute dharma artifacts, they are very useful basic materials. The yield is also very high. It's one of the few herbs with the highest yield every year. You have to take good care of it. Just as Li Yuanqing was watching, Zhao Baoyun suddenly rushed over. Zhao Baoyun held a jade token in his hand and casually threw it. The jade token flew straight at Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing reached out to take it, but the jade token easily passed through his palm. The jade token was still walking straight forward, as if it was going to pass through Li Yuanqing's chest and land in his body. A layer of black light flashed on Li Yuanqing's body and blocked the jade token. Zhao Baoyun looked at him in surprise and reminded Li Yuanqing, "You have to keep this key in your body. From now on, you can enter and leave this medicinal field freely. Open your defense a little and let it in."
Li Yuanqing nuddajantly.
A light flashed on his body and the black barrier disappeared. The jade token easily entered Li Yuanqing's body. Li Yuanqing felt a very rich fragrance of herbs suddenly enter his mouth and nose. The moment the jade token entered its body, the restrictions on it were completely opened. The rich fragrance contained in it wrapped around it. Congratulations for successfully signing in to the medicinal field of Martial Yuan sect. Reward received. Reward 1. Twin hose. Reward 2. 100 bottles of divine origin water. Choose Reward 2. Congratulations on obtaining 100 bottles of divine origin water. Reward issued. Li Yuanqing came back to his senses. Zhao Baoyun was looking at him in confusion. "Brotherly, what's wrong?" Zhao Baoyun sized Li Yuanqing up. Why was one of the three of them here now when the brother from last time introduced them? Moreover, this fellow looked strange and did not feel normal.
Infine.
"I've made brother Zhao worry." Zhao Baoyun nodded reluctantly and looked at Li Yuanqing again with some worry. "I heard from your brother that there are three of you. Why are you the only one now?" "The two of them have just taken the immortal pill. Their condition is still unstable. I was just about to ask you, have you lit the incense I gave you? That incense stick is almost finished. I don't see any signs of them waking up." Zhao Baoyun looked at the medicinal field and pondered for a moment. He hesitated and said, "It's nothing. It's only a matter of time before they consume this immortal pill. It's normal for it to take a longer time." "I see. Don't worry." Zhao Baoyun looked a little guilty. He took out a green bottle from his pocket and handed it to Li Yuanqing. "If there's anything unstable about the two of them later, split this bottle of spirit-returning water into two and pour it on them. It can save their lives." Li Yuanqing's eyebrows trembled slightly when he heard his words. Why did this guy sound so uncertain? "Don't worry, brother. Nothing will happen. Your two sisters will definitely be fine. Don't worry." Zhao Baoyun smiled awkwardly. He looked around and suddenly took out a jade pendant from his pocket and handed it to Li Yuanqing. "These are the herbs planted in all the medicinal fields, the time they ripen, the standard of picking, and the monthly output. They all have very fixed standards. You just have to pick them according to the rules marked on them. You don't have to do much else. Do you understand?" "Understood." Zhao Baoyun smiled and patted Li Yuanqing's shoulder. "Brother, be happy. You've been in the lower realm for so long. It's not easy for you to come back. It's much better to be able to stay in the immortal world than in the lower realm." "You're right, brother Zhao. How can the lower realm compare to the rich spiritual energy of the immortal world? I see that your cultivation level is about to reach the supremacy realm. Is the spiritual energy in your lower realm so dense? This is rare." Zhao Baoyun sized up Li Yuanqing and muttered in confusion, "I haven't seen anyone who has ascended from the lower realm past the supremacy realm for many years." Li Yuanqing said with a dejected expression, "It's also because Master invested so many pills in me that I can have such a cultivation level." Zhao Baoyun's expression turned solemn. "Fellow Taoist, you should let go of your grief. Since the old man has already passed away, you should think it through as soon as possible. Back then, Li Yuanqing had gotten his wood spirit clone to search for clues everywhere. He happened to see a recruitment notice to hire a person to guard the medicinal field. They needed rich knowledge about medicinal herbs, preferably an alchemist. Therefore, he fabricated such an identity for himself, saying that he was an alchemist from a hidden expert. Li Yuanqing followed this alchemist. However, when this old alchemist went to the lower realm to search for pills, he unfortunately died. Li Yuanqing was also left behind in the lower realm and had never returned to the immortal world. Originally, Zhao Baoyan had his doubts when he heard such a story. However, the knowledge of medicinal herbs displayed by the wood spirit clone and the pills that Li Yuanqing had personally refined made Zhao Baoyan's eyes light up. This was the person he was looking for. In addition, Li Yuanqing's conditions were very low. They were basically half of what the others requested. He only needed to have a pay of 10 spirit stones a month. Of course, the spirit stones in the immortal world were the purest high-grade spirit stones. High-grade spirit stones were not produced in the lower realm at all. One piece was equivalent to thousands of medium-grade spirit stones. This value was already high enough. However, in the immortal world, it was only the remuneration of a servant for a month. Li Yuanqing did not care about these things at all. He did not lack materials at all. It would be best as long as he could get this opportunity. Li Yuanqing followed Zhao Baoyun's words and nodded gently, as if he was trying his best to restrain the sadness on his face. Thank you for your concern, Brother Zhao. However, it's been so many years. I don't care that much anymore. That's good. Since you've already returned to the immortal world, then do well in the future. I see that your attainments in alchemy are quite deep. If there's a chance in the future, I'll introduce you to the elders of the sect. Perhaps they can even take you in as a disciple. At that time, you'll have another chance. Zhao Baoyan looked at Li Yuanqing with a smile and patted his shoulder. Thank you, Brother Zhao. It's nothing. Since you were recommended by me, the two of us will be brothers from now on. There's no need to be so polite. I still have something to do. If there's anything else, you can tell me. I'll take my leave first. Take care, Brother Zhao. As Zhao Baoyun spoke, he summoned a light from above his head and enveloped his body. When the light dissipated, Zhao Baoyun disappeared. After the chief left, Li Yuanqing removed the sadness on his face and took out the strange potion again. This guy's words were so unreliable just now. He felt that there was something wrong with the immortal pills he gave them. Otherwise, Hu Juzhou and Little Man wouldn't have been unconscious until now. This so-called spirit-returning water was dark and emitted a very strong smell of herbs. Li Yuanqing put away the green bottle. He had just signed in from the system and obtained 100 bottles of divine origin water. He did not know what this water was for. The blue bottle was the height of a palm and had a round stomach. The bottle neck was slightly narrower, and the mouth of the bottle was wide open. It was filled to the brim. Li Yuanqing tilted the bottle slightly, and a pool of transparent liquid came out. Under Li Yuanqing's control, the transparent liquid floated in midair. It was unknown what this liquid was used for. It looked like ordinary water, but he could feel a very strong power fluctuation from it. Li Yuanqing took a drop of water from the small ball of water and looked at the crystal-clear fire spirit fruit beside him. He dropped the drop of water on the root of the fire spirit fruit. After the water droplet fell into the soil, it was quickly absorbed by the soft soil. Next, it should be completely absorbed by these greedy plants. He wondered if it would have the effect of spiritual energy. Li Yuanqing had seen with his own eyes that these plants had grown an inch after drinking the liquid condensed from a drop of spiritual energy. He squatted quietly beside the medicinal field and waited. At this moment, the vine filled with fire spirit fruits suddenly twisted violently. The roots under it seemed to have touched something very terrifying and kept trembling. Li Yuanqing looked at this scene in shock. The roots of the fire spirit fruit were pulled out of the soil. The originally milky white roots seemed to have caught fire and swelled up several times. The vine was like a living person. It pulled its feet out of the soil and wanted to run. However, the red power had already spread from its roots to the top. The entire green vine was covered in a layer of red frost. The vines that were originally as thick as an arm had suddenly expanded to the size of a person's waist.
Li Yuanqing watched in shock.
This fellow had grown so much at once. Just as he was thinking about what would happen next, the fire spirit fruits on the vines exploded one by one, turning into flames that filled the sky. They landed on the ground and dyed the world red. In just a short while, all the fire spirit fruits had exploded. None of them were spared. The dozen or so fire spirit fruits growing on the vine had all exploded. The harvest was over. Li Yuanqing's face trembled slightly. He only wanted to test what this drop of water was for, but he did not expect that this drop of water would destroy the entire vine's fire spirit fruit. The medicinal field was originally filled with medicinal herbs, but now, a piece of it was inexplicably empty. However, the medicinal herbs at the side were still working hard to grow, and soon filled up a lot of the empty space. The ball of clear water was still floating in Li Yuanqing's hand. He did not know what to do with this thing now. There were still 99 bottles neatly arranged in his domain space. Logically speaking, the things rewarded by the system should be rare things. But why could this thing cause so much damage? Could it be that this thing was not used on plants, so it had such a serious rejection effect? Just as Li Yuanqing was feeling puzzled, something suddenly happened in his domain space. The two huge cocoons had each cracked open. However, the crack was only cracked, but it was very narrow and there was no movement inside. Li Yuanqing looked worriedly at the cocoon. He did not know what situation the two of them were in. The incense stick had already finished burning. Little Dot and Spirit Child were quietly guarding beside them. Hujujio and Little Man were only one step away from stepping into the immortal world, but they could not take the last step. Li Yuanqing took out a huge golden demon core and a purple gold alchemy furnace. He placed the alchemy furnace under the cocoon and threw the golden demon core into it. He took out 10 high-grade spirit stones. This was the remuneration Zhao Baoyuan had given him in advance. These 10 spirit stones contained the immortal energy of the immortal world. He believed that this immortal energy could help Hujujio and Little Man take the last step and successfully step into the immortal world. On the other hand, Li Yuanqing did not have time to care about the divine origin water while he was busy. He placed the ball of water in a jade box and casually placed it aside. Now, Little Dot and Spirit Child were very interested in the water droplets in the jade box. Spirit Child lay beside the box with his eyes wide open. His small hands could not help but open the box. He reached out a small finger and dipped it into the water droplet before stuffing it into his mouth greedily. Li Yuanqing was busy throwing all the materials into the alchemy furnace and mixing them evenly. In the end, they turned into purple steam that rose from the pill furnace and wrapped around the two cocoons. The purple steam kept spreading out from the alchemy furnace and seeped into the cocoon. After doing all of this, Li Yuanqing finally heaved a sigh of relief. This was the purest power. He poured it all into their bodies and believed that it could help them complete their transformation. Before coming, Li Yuanqing had specially increased their cultivation levels. Now, the two of them were third-grade formation arrangement realm experts. Although they were not very powerful in the immortal world, it should be enough. Just as Li Yuanqing was about to heave a sigh of relief, he suddenly heard a commotion. Spirit Child was just curious and accidentally licked the divine origin water. Now, the little fellow was lying on the ground and rolling around. Its tongue was swollen like red pepper and looked very comical. He kept blowing as he rolled around, wanting to blow away the burning sensation on his tongue, but these actions were useless. Li Yuanqing hurriedly came to Spirit Child's side. He saw that this kid's symptoms were too strange. No matter what he ate, he had never become like this. He looked at the open jade box at the side and Little, standing at the side cautiously. He understood everything. Li Yuanqing recalled the scene of the fire spirit fruit exploding into pieces on the ground just now. Wouldn't all his years of nurturing be in vain if this little guy were to explode and die? Just as he was thinking about what he should do to help this little fellow, Spirit Child suddenly crawled towards the lake. After the little fellow ran to the lake, it dipped its head into the lake and could not pull it out for a long time. Right next to his head, bubbles filled the air. Steam rose. It was like a small volcano had erupted inside. The heat emitted kept steaming the lake. Li Yuanqing stood behind Spirit Child and watched. The little fellow's body was still twisting left and right anxiously, but his body stopped moving. It was not that he died just like that. It was just that he seemed to have calmed down in the end. He lay there very comfortably. After a while, Li Yuanqing pulled Spirit Child out. At this moment, his tongue had returned to normal and was not as swollen as before. Spirit Child was in a daze and had a smile on his face. This smile looked like he had drunk too much. He looked at Li Yuanqing with misty eyes and reached out a small hand to pinch his face. It really looked like he was drunk. However, Li Yuanqing could clearly sense that Spirit Child's strength had increased again. He looked at the little fellow strangely and then at the water droplets in the box beside him. He took out a small bowl and filled it with clear water. He then took a small portion from the water droplet and placed it in front of Little Dot. Little Dot had seen the tragic state of Spirit Child just now and took 2 steps back carefully. He looked at Li Yuanqing timidly and begged for mercy. Li Yuanqing smiled and walked up to Little Dot. He gathered him into his arms and brought the bowl to his mouth. Little Dot, didn't you see how he ate so much just now? Isn't he still fine now? Drink this bowl and see if you can increase your cultivation. At first, Little Dot was a little resistant, but when he smelled the smell coming from the bowl, his consciousness slowly blurred. It was as if a very strong attraction was attracting him, making him want to drink the water in the bowl in one gulp. He swallowed lightly and looked up at Li Yuanqing innocently. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Nothing will happen. Little Dot timidly held the bowl in his hand and took a slow sip. This mouthful seemed to taste good. He raised his head and drank the bowl of water in one gulp. After drinking it, he even licked his lips, looking like he was not satisfied. After a while, Little Dot felt that something was wrong. His cheeks turned red and his body turned red, as if he was dyed red. However, his reaction was not that strong. He fell to the ground and fell asleep. Spirit Child was still sitting at the side with a demon core in his arms. He was playing with the demon core happily. It seemed like his vigor had not dissipated yet. Li Yuanqing looked back and saw that the condition of the 2 cocoons had stabilized. Hujuzhou and Little Man's slightly fluctuating power had gradually stabilized, and the power inside was slowly climbing. Li Yuanqing turned around and returned to the medicinal field. He looked at the empty piece of land and took out the drop of water again. He had not used much of this big drop of water after all this. Since the 2 little fellows could absorb the power in the water droplet, Li Yuanqing thought about the performance of the fire spirit fruit just now. It was obvious that the fire spirit fruit could absorb the power inside. The power of it seemed to be a little too violent. It might be better for him to dilute it. However, there was a fixed output every month in this small field. If he could not hand it in at that time, it would be a huge dereliction of duty. At that time, he might not even be able to keep this job. He had already lost a fire spirit fruit just now. If he lost another one, he did not know if he could make up for the loss. Li Yuanqing took out a wooden bucket and placed a very small drop of water in it. He filled the wooden bucket with clear water and mixed it evenly. Then, he poured out half a bucket of water and placed it at the roots of the fire spirit fruit in another medicinal field. After pouring half a bucket of water down, he stood quietly at the side and waited, hoping that he would not explode the fire spirit fruit this time. The water slowly seeped into the soil. The fire spirit fruit that was originally growing very evenly suddenly stopped. The roots below him seemed to be busy with something else and blocked its growth. Not long after, the roots of the fire spirit fruit suddenly began to tremble again. However, this time, the roots weren't uprooted and run. Although it was trembling a little this time, it was trembling with excitement. Suddenly, the soil below was pushed open, and a huge bulge appeared on the originally flat soil. The bulge split open, revealing the very strong roots. The fire spirit fruit began to extend up from the roots below and grew 2 to 3 times thicker than its original foundation. The medicinal field, which was already very crowded, became even more crowded. The vines of this fire spirit fruit directly squeezed the growth space of the other brothers to a large extent. Moreover, the fire spirit fruits on its vines were blown up like balloons. Just now, they were only the size of a human head, but now they have grown to almost 3 feet tall. The heavy fruit fell on the vine and almost landed on the ground. Li Yuanqing stared blankly at the fire spirit fruit that was more than half the height of a person. This was a little too exaggerated. Moreover, this thing worked so quickly. In just a short while, it had grown the entire fire spirit fruit to this size. This was only a small drop in a bottle. He plucked a fire spirit fruit and placed it on the ground. He rubbed his chin and sized up the fire spirit fruit. This fire spirit fruit was really too big. If he took it out to report, it would probably be difficult to explain. Then it would be troublesome if the production of such a huge fire spirit fruit was delayed. However, this thing had grown too big, and the spiritual energy inside was even richer. Such a huge fire spirit fruit was equivalent to 7 or 8 before. This divine origin water was really a useful thing. It directly catalyzed the fire spirit fruit that was supposed to grow for 2 months to mature in an instant. However, Li Yuanqing had to think of a way now. If he wanted to benefit from these fire spirit fruits, he had to think of a way to report to the sect. Otherwise, if he nurtured all these fire spirit fruits, the sect would not be able to obtain anything when they came to collect the goods. At this moment, a very subtle signal came from outside the valley. Someone was coming. Li Yuanqing put all the fire spirit fruits into his domain space and even uprooted the vines. After a moment, Zhao Baoyun landed beside Li Yuanqing. He gaped at the empty space in front of him. "Brother Li, what are you doing?" "Brother Zhao, I'm really sorry. Just now, I wanted to tidy up the herbs inside, but I didn't expect these herbs to shatter into pieces for some reason. The vines also melted into the soil." Zhao Baoyun looked at the fiery red ground and warned Li Yuanqing in pain. "Look at the things on it first before you make a move. These are all precious things." "Brother Zhao, I'm really sorry. I wonder if I—" Forget it. I'll deduct it from your salary next month." Zhao Baoyun added, "There's an old servant in Sanyuan. Bring my recommendation letter and go there to ask him for guidance. Don't let this happen again." The Sanyuan that Zhao Baoyun was talking about was the Sanyuan Medicinal Garden. The Sanyuan Medicinal Garden was very close to Li Yuanqing's Juan. The two of them were only dozens of miles apart. He could reach the periphery of Sanyuan in a while. Li Yuanqing held a jade token in his hand. This was the token that Zhao Baoyun had given him. He stood alone outside the valley and waited. All the structures of the medicinal garden in the martial Yuan sect were the same. They were all in the middle of the 3 hills that surrounded the entire medicinal field. Most of the medicinal gardens that looked very vast were actually built by humans. Li Yuanqing had also seen places like the medicinal fields of other sections. The structure was quite different from this place. It could be said that every sect had their own unique structure. Just as he was looking around, the bamboo forest in front of him suddenly opened up and a fair-skinned middle-aged man walked out. The middle-aged man was originally expressionless, but when he saw that Li Yuanqing was alone, his expression became a little impatient. He walked to Li Yuanqing's side and looked around him. Finally, his gaze stopped on Li Yuanqing and landed on the jade token. The man took the jade token and closed his eyes to sense it for a while. Then, he casually put it away and waved at Li Yuanqing. "Follow me. Don't just stand there." After saying that, he walked into the bamboo forest without caring about Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing looked at his footprints and passed through the winding path in the bamboo forest to the vast medicinal garden inside. The structure here was too similar to his place. After Li Yuanqing came here, he felt as if he had returned to his territory. "What's wrong? Aren't there manuals? Why are there still things you don't understand?" The man sat under a wooden shed. On the small wooden table in front of him was a pile of herbs. Some were dried leaves, some were pulp that had been smashed into mud. All kinds of materials were placed there. Li Yuanqing coughed lightly and said, "Here's the situation. I accidentally broke the vines of 2 fire spirit fruits. I wonder how I can make up for the missing production." The man looked up and glanced at Li Yuanqing in confusion. "Didn't you just come? Why are you so careless? These materials are extremely precious treasures. You'll suffer if one of them is broken. But you broke 2 vines? That fruit should still be usable, right? I can't use the fruits either. That's why I came over to ask you." "Ask me?" The man looked at Li Yuanqing unhappily. He turned around and fiddled with the half-finished herbs in front of him. "I have nothing to say. What I know is written in detail in your jade pendant. If you can't find anything inside, it's useless to ask me." Li Yuanqing came to his side and sat down on the small stool. He looked at him and asked, "Senior, is there any way for me to make up for the loss of the fire spirit fruit? If such a thing happens again in the future, I'm afraid the harvest will be low. At that time, I won't be able to keep this job." The man still ignored Li Yuanqing's question. "Why don't you be careful? Although these herbs are all precious, they won't be damaged just by touching them. Who knows how you did it? You destroyed the fruits of 2 vines? That's not a small number." The man originally wanted to reject Li Yuanqing, but he was very pleased with Li Yuanqing calling him senior. He could not help but say a few more words. "After you go back, read the rules recorded carefully. Don't be so careless. Nothing will happen. Don't worry." The man looked at Li Yuanqing and persuaded him. However, Li Yuanqing's motive for coming here today was not only for this sentence. He had other plans. "Senior, do you really have no other way?" Li Yuanqing suddenly took out a wooden box and placed it in front of the man. "I still don't know your name?" The man's gaze landed on the wooden box. He pretended to be indifferent and opened the wooden box a crack. With just a glance, he immediately closed the wooden box again. He placed a hand gently on it, and his expression became much friendlier. "My name is Wang Lin. You can call me Big Brother Wang from now on." "Thank you, Big Brother Wang." Li Yuanqing cupped his hands at Wang Lin.
I'm Li Yuanqing.
"I'm new here and don't know the rules. Please forgive me." Wang Lin waved his hand and casually took out 2 teacups. He filled them with spiritual tea. "There are no rules here, so you don't have to care so much. However, the monthly production of these herbs is fixed. There are also some loose amounts. Generally speaking, you won't encounter too many situations where you're tight on production. Big brother, you might not know this, but it wasn't easy for me to get such a job. I don't want to lose it for no reason, so I wanted to be safer. If you have any connections, please tell me the truth." Wang Lin's hand gently rubbed the wooden box as he sized up Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing had originally planned to come over today to try his luck. However, from the looks of it, this person called Wang Lin clearly had a way. "Big brother, do you still have any worries?" Wang Lin waved his hand and smiled. "I'm not worried. There is such a place, but the sect explicitly prohibits the guards of the herb garden from doing business in the black market." "Black market?" Wang Lin pretended to be careless and said, "The sect is quite strict about the black market. If we're discovered, we'll be immediately expelled." "Is that so?" "Speaking of which, the sect doesn't have a strong surveillance on this matter." Wang Lin's eyes moved slightly as he looked into the distance. "As long as you're careful, you won't be exposed." Li Yuanqing was delighted when he heard this and immediately took out a small jade bottle. This time, Wang Lin put it away without even looking at it. The smile on his face became even wider. "Little brother, look at what you're doing. It's just the first time we've met, yet you're taking so many things."
I'm embarrassed.
"Big brother Wang, what are you saying? I'll have to rely on you to take care of me in the future." After Wang Lin received 2 portions, he was in a good mood and couldn't stop laughing. "Brother, just based on your words, feel free to look for me in the future. As long as I, Wang Lin, can do it, I will definitely not refuse." "That's great. Speaking of which, 300 miles to the southeast, there's a golden bamboo mountain. There's a dense underground black market on the golden bamboo mountain. It's a secret place." Li Yuanqing immediately asked, "Can I buy the fire spirit fruit there?" "It's not just the fire spirit fruit." Wang Lin smiled mysteriously and looked at Li Yuanqing. "However, that place is dangerous. It's not something a little child like you can handle. If you want to go and come back quickly. Don't waste time there, understand?" "Thank you for your guidance, Big Brother Wang." Li Yuanqing heaved a sigh of relief. At least he knew a way now. He had so many things in his hands. If he could not find a market for the fire spirit fruit, it would be useless for him to lose so much. However, he did not know if he could sell this huge fire spirit fruit there. Just as Li Yuanqing was thinking, Wang Lin suddenly leaned towards him mysteriously. Wang Lin lowered his voice and said to Li Yuanqing in a low voice, "Don't say that I don't take care of you. You've just arrived. There are many things you don't know, but I have to tell you. The maintenance materials distributed by the sect every month usually have 2 or 3 portions of surplus. If you use them properly, I'm afraid you can get 7 or 8 more. Big Brother Wang, what do you mean? Li Yuanqing pretended not to understand. However, Li Yuanqing had a rough guess. Each of these medicinal fields was condensed from a complicated array. Those herbs grew very safely under the protection of the array formation. Moreover, there was a powerful spirit-gathering array that allowed them to obtain more spiritual energy to replenish themselves. Their spiritual energy came from the huge spirit vein under the medicinal garden. However, those array formations were severely damaged because they were too efficient. This was also one of the prices of their medicinal herbs growing at an extremely fast speed. It was precisely because of these losses that the sect would also distribute some materials every month during the harvest to replenish the losses of the array formation. The additional materials for repairing the array formation are all yours. You don't have to report it to the sect. Use these materials well. After working in the sect for a few years, you will have your own medicinal field. Wang Lin smiled mysteriously and patted Li Yuanqing's shoulder gently. Don't underestimate these materials. Although these materials can't directly provide spiritual energy, they're still valuable items. These are all potential benefits. Li Yuanqing had never thought that there was such a thing. Looking at Wang Lin's stammering manner when he spoke just now, Li Yuanqing had a guess. This fellow had most likely planted some medicinal herbs secretly. Otherwise, he wouldn't know so much about the black market. Li Yuanqing pretended to be enlightened and looked at Wang Lin. Thank you for your information, Big Brother Wang. If not for your words, I wouldn't have known about this. Therefore, when the array formation is maintained, be more careful. Don't spend so many materials. The excess will be yours. Thank you for your advice, Big Brother. I will definitely remember it. That's easy. I think you're quite smart. Come and find me if you need anything in the future. These aren't troublesome. Li Yuanqing was satisfied with what he wanted and was about to leave when Wang Lin indirectly gave him a way out. Li Yuanqing stood up and cupped his hands at Wang Lin with a smile. Then I won't disturb you anymore. I'll go back first. Remember, this black market is not a kind place. If you really want to go to those places, you have to be more careful. Also, if you're found out in the future, it has nothing to do with me. Big Brother Wang, don't worry. This has nothing to do with you. Li Yuanqing hurriedly left Sanyuan. After returning to Jiyuan, he looked at the large tract of fertile land in front of him and secretly made a plan. The most important thing now was to find out how many materials the black market of the Golden Bamboo Mountain could provide for him. If the black market had a large number of fire spirit fruits or other medicinal herbs, Li Yuanqing could even turn all the medicinal fields into his experimental base and create a large pile of spirit fruits. He tidied himself briefly and specifically picked 2 mature fire spirit fruits to bring with him before leaving Jiyuan in a hurry. After leaving the sect and flying southeast for 300 miles, he could see a very unique mountain peak in front of him. The mountain peak was golden from top to bottom. If one looked carefully, they would see some golden bamboo growing all over the mountain. From the looks of it, this mountain should be the Golden Bamboo Mountain that Wang Lin had mentioned. Li Yuanqing saw the Golden Bamboo Mountain from afar. He landed in a small valley outside of the mountain peak. He found a very remote, abandoned cave abode and sat down cross-legged. If he planned to act here in the long term in the future, it would be better to have a fake identity. Li Yuanqing slowly closed his eyes. Water vapor slowly rose from his body. The water vapor wrapped around him and formed a ball of air like a flame. Li Yuanqing's body kept twisting and changing in the water vapor. After a while, the water vapor dissipated and a graceful young master walked out. This young master looked much more mature than Li Yuanqing. His face was more square, his skin looked darker, and his body was wider and thinner. Li Yuanqing looked at his appearance from head to toe and felt quite satisfied. This thin appearance was much more convenient than his previous round and tender appearance. After doing this, Li Yuanqing walked out of the abandoned cave abode. He stayed in the canyon for a while and set up a small concealment array before leaving silently. There were a few paths at the foot of the Golden Bamboo Mountain that extended out from this golden mountain peak. They went far away from the many forests outside. A tall and thin man was walking along one of the paths towards the Golden Bamboo Mountain when 2 men suddenly jumped down from a big tree beside him. The 2 men were bare-chested. One of them had a large ringed saber on his shoulder, and the other was hugging a black iron rod in his arms. The two of them looked at the thin man in front of them with ill intentions. "Who are you? Why did you come here?" The two men approached and blocked Li Yuanqing's sides. Li Yuanqing took a step back timidly and looked at the two men worriedly. "I'm here to sell something." "To sell something?" The man with the big ringed saber smiled at Li Yuanqing disdainfully and said, "What can you have? Do you know who is coming in and out of this place to sell treasures here? This thing of mine is very expensive. I went to several places, but no one could afford it, so I found this place." Li Yuanqing's words surprised the two men. They looked at each other and laughed as if they were watching a joke. "Kid, you're joking with me, right? What can you have that others can't afford?" Li Yuanqing waved his hand, and a circle of fog suddenly rose in front of him. The fog dissipated with the wind, revealing a huge black cloth below. Under the black cloth was a tall and big thing. "Kid, who are you selling this lousy stone to? This place sells medicinal herbs and dharma artifacts. If you dare to fool us brothers, you'll suffer today." Li Yuanqing ignored him and suddenly pulled off the black cloth with one hand, revealing a huge fruit that was more than half the height of a person. The moment they saw this huge fruit, the two brothers widened their eyes in shock. The two of them did not speak for a long time, and they did not know what to say. The two of them had never seen such a huge fire spirit fruit in their lives. How could this fire spirit fruit grow so big? Even the fire spirit fruit, cultivated by those large sects, was only the size of a human head. However, this fruit was more than half the size of a person. Li Yuanqing coughed lightly and added, "I know a senior who plants medicinal herbs. This is the latest fire spirit fruit planted by that senior. I wonder if it can be sold here?" The two brothers finally reacted when they heard Li Yuanqing's words. The two of them looked at Li Yuanqing with their mouths agape. "Where did you get this?" The man holding the iron rod could not help but ask. The big ringed saber at the side slapped the back of his head. "Idiot, didn't he already say that? He got this from a senior who grows medicinal herbs." Yes. I forgot just now. Look." Li Yuanqing covered the black cloth again and put away the fire spirit fruit. He looked at the two men worriedly and said, "It's fine if I can't sell it here. I'll find another place." Just as Li Yuanqing was about to leave, the man with the big ringed saber immediately circled around and blocked Li Yuanqing's path. "Brother, you can't leave. What is it? You must sell this fire spirit fruit to us. I think it's a little inconvenient for the two of you." "There's nothing inconvenient about it. Leave this fire spirit fruit to us brothers. We'll definitely sell it for you. However, you have to know our rules." The man glanced at his brother beside him. The man holding the wooden stick immediately added, "We brothers will definitely help you sell this fire spirit fruit for a good price, but you have to give us 10% of the commission." The corners of Li Yuanqing's mouth twitched slightly. He could not help but want to beat these two up. Was the remuneration here so exaggerated? 10% was simply robbery. However, Li Yuanqing still endured it. He still pretended to be very weak and rejected them after thinking hard. "I'm sorry. These herbs were painstakingly planted by that old senior. I can't make this decision." As Li Yuanqing spoke, he planned to leave. At this moment, the two of them communicated with each other. In the end, the man with the saber gritted his teeth, as if he had made a very difficult decision. "In that case, we'll only charge you half of the commission since we pity you today. How about that? This is already very little. We won't be able to do this job anymore." But what but? Brother, hurry up and follow me in. If you hesitate any longer, you won't be able to sell it for a good price after the big customers leave after this peak period. With the help of the two of them, Li Yuanqing entered the Golden Bamboo Mountain at a very fast speed. Of course, one could not see the black market from the outside. It was inside the Golden Bamboo Mountain. If one wanted to enter, they had to have a special token to pass through the defensive array outside. After passing through the mountain protection array outside, they arrived at a very long and dark passageway. The three of them walked along the passageway for a while before they were finally released from the quiet atmosphere. A very lively atmosphere assaulted their faces, instantly filling their empty ears. The three of them took a few more steps forward when the scene in front of them suddenly became clear. The originally narrow passageway turned into a vast hall. This hall was like an inverted bowl in the middle of the mountain. The hall was surrounded by many passageways. Although this hall looked spacious, it was not very big compared to the entire area of the Golden Mountain. Li Yuanqing simply sensed that there were other power fluctuations in the inconspicuous corridors. They probably had more than one hall. After entering from the aisle, there was a platform beside him. A white-haired old woman sat behind the platform and leaned against the rocking chair with her eyes closed in boredom. "Grandma Huang, this brother wants to join our guild." The old woman half opened her eyes and scanned Li Yuanqing. She casually threw out a wooden tablet with her withered hands and threw it into Li Yuanqing's arms. "Take it." Li Yuanqing held the wooden tablet and looked at the old woman. "What are you planning to sell?" Before Li Yuanqing could answer, the brother beside him took out a high-grade spirit stone and placed it in front of the old woman. "Grandma Huang, this is his deposit." The old woman's eyes widened slightly as she searched the person's face in confusion. "Grandma, don't worry so much. Take these spirit stones. Don't delay our business." Seeing how anxious the two of them were, Grandma Huang took a deep look at Li Yuanqing and moved her hands slightly on the platform in front of her. Li Yuanqing felt the wooden tablet in his hand tremble slightly. Then, the granny lay down again and closed her eyes to rest. "Brother, hurry up and leave. We can't delay any longer. This is good stuff. It's a lively time now. It won't be easy to sell it after they leave." After the three of them left, the granny half opened her eyes and looked in the direction where the three of them had left. She could not help but say, "Another fat sheep." Li Yuanqing's ears twitched slightly. He was supported by the two of them as they walked in. They did not stay in the hall outside for long. Instead, they came to a slightly wider aisle at the side and walked straight into it. After walking out of the aisle, they arrived at a smaller hall, but it was very quiet. In the middle of the hall was a sunken round platform with high chairs beside it. Many people were sitting there. Many of them were wearing cloaks and masks, and no one showed their faces. When Li Yuanqing entered just now, the two brothers had also put on a mask. The two of them excitedly pulled Li Yuanqing along the aisle and hurried backstage. Li Yuanqing glanced at the graceful woman on the stage. She was holding a tray with a very clean jade bottle on it. The Phoenix White Jade Pill uses the third-grade Supremacy Realm Phoenix's inner core as the main ingredient. It can only be refined into 3 pills after carefully refining for 49 days. After consuming this Phoenix White Jade Pill, it can greatly repair the injuries of the body in an extremely short period of time. It's especially useful for cultivators with fire attribute spiritual energy. This item is extremely precious. There are a total of 3 pills here. The starting bid is 20 high-grade spirit stones. Everyone, please start bidding. Li Yuanqing only heard the starting price of 20 high-grade spirit stones before entering the backstage. It was much quieter here, and the sounds outside were isolated. There were many people busy backstage. There were some cages, platforms, or all kinds of messy equipment placed here. All of these were for the better effect of the stage in front. Many people were busy here. Most of them looked relaxed and tired as they discussed where to go later. Today's auction is much less lively than before. There really aren't any real treasures today. It was only because of those pills. Otherwise, I'm afraid everyone would have left long ago. But that's good. It's not very busy today. I can sneak out early. Kid, why aren't you cultivating properly? All you think about is going out and fooling around with your demoness every day. Let's see when you can break through to the supremacy realm. You still have the cheek to say that about me? What about you? You're chasing after the female disciple of your sect? Did she care about you? Li Yuanqing listened along the way. These people chatted about nothing and finally arrived at a very quiet hut. This hut was built from pure white jade. There was a strange bluish-purple color lingering in the jade. The energy lingering inside formed a very three-dimensional isolation effect. In the hut, a man covered in gems was sitting at a small table. Purple fog was lingering in front of him, and a unique fragrance wafted out of him. Master Wu Yan. The two men were still anxious just now, but after entering the hut, they became much more reserved and carefully guarded the door. The man called Master Wu Yan replied without looking back. He put down his work and asked casually, "Who did you bring today?" This was considered a summons from this master. The two of them happily pulled Li Yuanqing in and stood beside Master Wu Yin. Master, we really found something good today. This kid has a very huge fire spirit fruit on him. That fire spirit fruit is as tall as a person. It will definitely be able to be sold for a good price. This master in gorgeous clothes finally turned around. When he saw Li Yuanqing, he turned back and yawned in boredom. Shanke, I should have said this many times. Don't bring something like the fire spirit fruit to me. But master, this fellow's fire spirit fruit is really different from others. Take a look. As he spoke, he hurriedly urged Li Yuanqing to take out the fire spirit fruit again. Li Yuanqing reluctantly summoned the fire spirit fruit. The huge fruit appeared in the room, making it look much smaller. When Master Wu Yin saw the fire spirit fruit, he was stunned for a moment. He seemed to have never expected that there was really such a huge fire spirit fruit. This should be a fruit in disguise, right? Li Yuanqing was still a little uncertain. He had not interacted much with the fire spirit fruit in the past. This is a pure fire spirit fruit. It's just a fire spirit king. Master Wu Yin ignored Li Yuanqing's words. He stretched out a finger and poked a small hole in the fire spirit fruit before placing it in his mouth. After a while, the master suddenly opened his eyes and looked at the huge fire spirit fruit with a burning gaze. Not only is this fruit huge, but the energy inside is also extremely pure. It's actually completely different from ordinary fire spirit fruits. Master, what did I tell you just now? It's definitely the real deal this time. Shan Ke slapped his good brother excitedly. The two of them had finally caught something good. Master Wu Yin ignored them and looked at Li Yuanqing. Where did you get this fruit? Li Yuanqing still replied with the same answer as before. My fruit was personally nurtured by a senior I know. However, it's not convenient for me to reveal this senior's name. Master, please forgive me. What senior? Why have I never heard of anyone growing such a huge fire spirit fruit? I'm afraid I can't reveal that. Sai, why are you so insensible? Master Wu Yin is knowledgeable and is treating you well. Shan Ke glared at Li Yuanqing unhappily and warned him. However, Wu Yin waved his hand and looked at Li Yuanqing. It's fine. If it's not convenient, I won't ask further. Masters have their own unique personalities. Thank you. How many fire spirit fruits do you have? It's not much, but can this be sold for a good price? I have to give an explanation to my senior. Can it be sold for a good price? Master Wu Yin seemed to have heard a joke. Your treasure has never appeared before. Do you think you can sell it for a good price? The small underground black market auction of the Golden Bamboo Mountain was soon coming to an end. After auctioning off the last few hidden medicinal pills, the auction was about to end. This auction is more or less boring. I came all the way here because I thought there would be some new treasures. A sloppy old man scratched his exposed stomach in boredom. The old man's long hair was covered in weeds and hung casually on his body. His face was even more dejected, as if he had just crawled out of a mud pit. He was also holding a big oily gourd in his hand. Every time he tilted the gourd to his mouth, a large amount of wine would surge out. His gourd seemed to be filled to the brim. No matter how much he drank, it was always full. He occupied several seats alone, but no one dared to come over and bother him. Seeing that there was only one item left in the auction and that it was about to be sold, some people beside him had already quietly left. The old man hung his dirty gourd on his waist. He was about to stand up when his red nose suddenly twitched slightly, and he glanced at the small door backstage in confusion. This smell? The old man's blurry eyes were clear for a moment. His eyes flickered as he stared in the direction of the back door for a long time. The anxious people at the side left one by one. They chatted as they walked, but the old man did not complain anymore. He sat down again and leaned back leisurely, drinking his wine. Then let's congratulate this gentleman for obtaining these 2 bottles of rejuvenation pills. This auction. The host on the stage was about to speak when he suddenly stopped. He stared at the side in confusion for a while and seemed to hear something. The eyes of the man on the stage widened slightly. He finally reacted after confirming for a while. Everyone, you can't leave yet. Many people had already left their seats, but they were called back by his words. I just received news that we have another mysterious guest who has delivered a very, very rare treasure. What treasure? Why so sudden? What could it be? Did you hear anything before?
No.
The previous news was just these few pills. I didn't hear anything else. The people below were all very puzzled, not knowing what this fellow was talking about. The host regained his usual calm. Everyone, you might be very curious about what kind of treasure it is. I guarantee you that this treasure will definitely excite everyone. As soon as he finished speaking, two servants immediately walked up with a huge rack. Their cooperation was very smooth. The two servants walked forward. When they reached the back of the host, they stopped and put down the rack in their hands. There was a huge black cloth covering the rack. The black cloth was bulging, and it was unknown what was inside. What will be down here? Could it be some good stone? Could it be that a new species of demon beast has been born? It doesn't look like a demon beast. Could it be a new Dharma artifact? It looks like this and is so big. It's even a treasure. Everyone below had different opinions about this so-called treasure. No one knew what the good thing they had taken out at the end was. Many people had already left. The host suddenly removed the black cloth on it, revealing the two fire spirit fruits wrapped in sparkling yellow energy below. The fire spirit fruit was tightly sealed by the protective array formation. It did not reveal any special aura just now, so no one could guess it. The moment this huge fire spirit fruit appeared, everyone below was stunned. None of them had seen such a huge fire spirit fruit before. Fire spirit fruits were very common materials, but generally speaking, high-quality ones were only the size of a human head. What was this thing that could grow so big on vines? The host scanned the faces of the people below and saw that they were all shocked. He relaxed a little and finally stabilized the situation. Everyone, please take a look here. This giant spirit fruit was planted by a very mysterious apothecary, a good friend of Master Wu Yan. This new spirit-gathering fruit has cost that master countless efforts and is extremely valuable. Today is the first time it has appeared here. Its value is naturally self-evident. 20 high-grade spirit stones. I'll take it all. Suddenly, someone started bidding before he could finish. The host looked at the person and warned, "Fellow Taoist, the rules here are very clear. Bid according to the rules. I haven't said the bottom price of the fire spirit fruit. How much to start?" The starting price of these two giant spirit fruits is 10 high-grade spirit stones. Every increase is 1 high-grade spirit stone. I'll pay 20 spirit stones. Everyone, give me some face and don't snatch it from me. You want to buy it for 20 spirit stones? Can you let everyone feel how rich the power in this so-called giant spirit fruit is? What if this is an empty shell? I'm afraid no one will be willing to do this deal. The host gently rubbed the top of the fire spirit fruit, and a small array formation cracked open. A very rich fruit fragrance instantly filled the entire hall. There was also a lot of fire attribute spiritual energy mixed in the fragrance of the fruit. The burning aura surged in everyone's noses. Wow! Everyone was in an uproar. They were only curious when they saw this huge fruit just now, but now, they really had the urge to buy it immediately. 25. I must get these two fire spirit fruits. Everyone, give me some face. There's no need to compete like this. No matter how good this thing is, it's just basic material. However, I'm refining a set of fire attribute spiritual liquid recently and need this huge spiritual fruit. If you can bear to part with it, I'll definitely take a step back if we encounter other treasures in the future. I'll pay 27 spirit stones. I wonder how many such spirit-gathering fruits your pavilion has in your hands. If there are more chances in the future, it doesn't matter if I give up this time. I'm not in a hurry. Li Yuanqing really wanted to tell Wu Yan that his giant spirit fruit was unlimited. However, it would be inappropriate if he could not expose his entire wealth. He could only say cautiously, "Master told me that there might be dozens of them every month." Master Wu Yan nodded slightly and said to the communication device, "Tell them that we only have 2 giant spirit fruits here now. If they want more in the future, they'll have to rely on luck." The corners of Li Yuanqing's mouth twitched slightly. This fellow was just going through the motions when he asked him that just now. The host looked at that person regretfully and replied, "Fellow Taoist, if there were more, we would definitely have taken them out. But it's a pity that this master only took out these two at the moment. I think this opportunity is still very rare. 30 spirit stones. Don't fight me for it. 32 spirit stones. I must get these two today. They competed with each other and saw that the price was already more than 20 high-grade spirit stones, higher than the starting price. Many of the people below were anxious. Many of them weighed their wallets and silently retreated to their seats to watch the show. After the price reached 32 spirit stones, this number became more sensitive. Generally speaking, although this thing was huge, the fire spirit fruit was a very ordinary thing. It wouldn't cost 3 high-grade spirit stones, even if they bought 100 fire spirit fruits. Was it worth it to spend so much money on this large fire spirit fruit? 32 high-grade spirit stones once. The host smiled at the customers below and continued to wait. 32 high-grade spirit stones. 50 spirit stones. Suddenly, a lazy voice sounded, covering all the sounds at the scene. Everyone's gaze was gathered in the dark corner behind it. The old man raised his greasy, dirty gourd above his head. In the face of so many people's gazes, he even yawned lazily and scratched his stomach. Even the host on the stage was stunned on the spot. For a moment, he did not know what to say. Is this old man crazy? Sure. This is the drunkard Wang Lan. You can't afford to offend him. Don't let him bear a grudge. What? He's the crazy alcoholic, Wang Lan? Who else could it be? Other than him, who would swagger in and out of these black markets every day without even wearing a mask? How unlucky. Why did I bump into him today? Hurry up and leave. No one can stop this guy when he goes crazy. I reckon no one will be able to snatch this thing away. There were still many people who did not notice the old man just now. Now that the old man had increased the price to 50 spirit stones, many people silently retreated from the side. Li Yuanqing stared silently at this strange-looking old fellow from the crack. This old man was too generous. 2 fire spirit fruits could be sold for 50 high-grade spirit stones. If he mutated all the fire spirit fruits in those medicinal fields, just the high-grade spirit stones would be enough to pile up a mountain. Even someone as rich as Li Yuanqing could not help but feel flustered when he encountered such a way to earn money quickly. The old man's expression was originally quite relaxed. After a while, his expression suddenly turned ugly. He glared at the host and said angrily, "Little brat, why aren't you bidding? How long do you want me to wait?" Only then did the host react. He hurriedly knocked his hammer on the stage and shouted, 50 high-grade spirit stones once. 50 spirit stones twice. 50 spirit stones thrice. Deal. Congratulations to Apothecary Wang for obtaining these 2 very rare giant spirit fruits. Even the knowledgeable Master Wu Yin could not help but be stunned for a long time. He turned around and looked at Li Yuanqing as if he was looking at a treasure. I wonder where you cultivate? Li Yuanqing replied without thinking, I'm a servant looking after the medicinal field at the Huang sect.
Huang sect.
Master Wu Yin's eyes widened slightly. He looked at Li Yuanqing a few more times, as if he was searching for the old fellow related to the fire spirit fruit in the Huang sect. The planting techniques of the masters in the Huang sect are all extremely superb. I was lucky enough to experience it in the past. I wonder if you can reveal some news about this fire spirit fruit? Which master can actually plant such a fruit? I really want to visit them. Li Yuanqing hurriedly shook his head and pretended to be reserved. But I'm afraid it's a little inconvenient. Master told me before I came that I can't reveal this matter, so I chose to come here. Master Wu Yin hurriedly comforted him. Little friend, don't be anxious. I don't have any ill intentions. I was in a hurry just now. Just pretend that I never asked. Thank you for your understanding, Master. That's easy. You said that dozens of giant spirit fruits can be produced every month? If Master is right, it shouldn't be a problem if the time and place are right. All right, this is an opportunity between the two of us. If we cooperate, we can rely on this giant spirit fruit to make a killing. Master Wu Yin gently pulled Li Yuanqing over and sat beside him on the floating meditation cushion. In recent years, there have been more and more alchemists. The demand for herbs has also increased greatly. This is a huge gap. Li Yuanqing nodded cautiously and replied, That's what Master said too. That's why I said that this is our chance. You have such a rare treasure in your hands now. As long as we operate it well, we will definitely be able to sell this huge spirit fruit for a good price. Master might know a little more than I do. I don't really understand. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you understand or not. As long as I understand. Master Wu Yin pulled out small balls in front of Li Yuanqing as representatives of the sects. Look, although these sects have medicinal herbs to plant, most of them are only provided for the internal members of the sect. It's easier said than done for the rogue cultivators outside to plant medicinal herbs. Brother, this is a good opportunity. If you have other medicinal herbs in your hands, you can hand them all to me to operate. Get out of the way, all of you. As the two of them were talking, there was a commotion outside. Apothecary Wang, your fruits are here. Where are you going? Why do you care where I go? The fruit I want is here. Don't fool me. Although Li Yuanqing had secretly looked at the old man who had bought his herbs through the cracks just now, the feeling was still very different when he saw him in person. This old man was not tall, but he gave off a dignified aura, making people feel inexplicably oppressed. Although this guy did not look proper, his cultivation realm was really that of a mid-stage supremacy. Li Yuanqing was not sure what grade it was, but this fellow's strength was definitely the most profound he had seen so far. The old man also sized Li Yuanqing up, as if he had already decided that Li Yuanqing was the seller. Your cultivation level is not bad. You're at the peak of the formation arrangement realm at such a young age. Your future is limitless. I wonder which sect you came from. The old man swung the big oily gourd and arrived in front of Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing was about to take a step back when he suddenly felt as if his body was imprisoned by some power. He could only stand on the spot and watch as the old man placed his dirty arm on his shoulder. The old man's greasy hand kept rubbing Li Yuanqing's body up and down. In a short period of time, he had touched Li Yuanqing from head to toe. Good Lord, your bones are actually so young, and you have such a high cultivation at such a young age. What's the name of your elder? Li Yuanqing glared at the old man angrily and replied unhappily, Old sir, what has this got to do with you? Master Wu Yin watched this scene with his mouth agape. Why didn't he expect this kid's identity to be so special? He was even recognized by the drunk Wang Lan. Fortunately, he had received such important news and did not do anything wrong. Wang Lan's body tilted and he almost fell to the ground. A cushion beside him approached at the right time and stuck under him. He leaned lazily against the meditation cushion and took a big gulp of wine. The gourd was like a small waterfall, sprinkling wine outside. I spent so much money to buy the fire spirit fruit in your hand. Can I even know your name? Li Yuanqing looked at Master Wu Yin and said unhappily, How do you know that I sold this fruit to you? What does the deal you made with them have to do with me? The old man's slender arm casually pulled Li Yuanqing closer to him. Kid, the smell of that fruit is so thick on you. I smelled it on you long ago. Why are you still arguing? I don't want to harm you. Whatever. Master Wu Yin, I still have something on today, so I'll leave first. If the next batch of fruits is ripe, I'll come again. Master Wu Yin immediately took out a small array disc and stuffed it into Li Yuanqing's hand. Young friend, bring this communication device with you. If there's anything, you can tell me immediately. If there's anything inconvenient, you can also tell me. Although I'm not talented, I still have some power. Thank you, Master. After Li Yuanqing put away the communication device, he hurriedly left the hall. Beside me, the two brothers were still following the two of them. They were originally waiting outside the door for Li Yuanqing to come out. They wanted to send Li Yuanqing into the forest before leaving in peace. Brother, thank you so much this time. If there's such a deal in the future, you must inform us brothers so that we can have some soup, right? The two of them did not get the so-called 5% commission. Initially, they had not expected this deal to be so big. Since Master Wu Yin was in charge of this matter, the two of them had only received a small reward. However, this was enough for them to be happy for a long time. At the backstage of the auction hall, Wang Lan's face was still drunk as she stared straight at Wu Yin. How many do you have? Master, look at this. Didn't we say just now? Two of them have already fallen into your hands. How can there be more? Master Wu Yin was more or less reserved when facing this old man. Wang Lan did not fall for this. He stared at him coldly and said, "Don't tell me these useless things. I just want to know where that kid's fruits came from. If 2 fire spirit fruits can grow, then 10 can grow. How many more are there?" Master Wu Yin grinned and looked at Wang Lan. He knew that he could not hide it from this old fellow, but how could he let Wang Lan participate in such a huge deal? "Apothecary Wang, you also know that we have always respected you very much. You are the most famous alchemist among the rogue cultivators within 1,000 miles. We have also cooperated a lot." "That's not what I want to hear. Master, I think we've already done our best for you. However, this deal is a deal of our Golden Mountain Pavilion and has nothing to do with you. I advise you not to get involved in this matter." Wang Lan's eyes finally widened. After thinking for a while, he nodded gently. "I understand." After Li Yuanqing left the Golden Bamboo Mountain, he did not return to the sect immediately. Instead, he took a huge detour and arrived at a very remote valley. He stayed here for a long time. He had made a huge deal this time. However, he did not know if someone would follow him. If he returned to the sect with a tale, his whereabouts would be exposed in the future. In the immortal world, where there were many experts, he did not want to be targeted. However, from the looks of it, the black market security measures of the Golden Bamboo Mountain were not bad. No one followed him. However, that crazy old man looked strange and seemed to have some methods. There was a very strong smell of herbs on that old man. One look, and one could tell that he was an experienced alchemist. However, in Li Yuanqing's impression, alchemists were usually very wise and mighty, but this old man was sloppy. He took out the 50 high-grade spirit stones and weighed them in his hand. Although he had indeed sold the fruits he had planted, there was another problem that had yet to be resolved. How could he make up for the losses of the sect? After thinking about it, he finally targeted Wang Lin. Wang Lin looked at Li Yuanqing, who was waiting outside the medicinal garden. Although he did not know why this kid had returned after leaving for half a day, he still invited Li Yuanqing in on account of his generosity. "In my opinion, you should stop playing tricks since you've only been here for 2 days. Wang Lin could have let it go on account of the treasure, but Li Yuanqing was too exaggerated. He had only been here for 2 days, but he was already thinking of tricking him out of his decades of tricks. This kid was too greedy. He would be discovered by the sect sooner or later. If he was discovered, he might even expose him." Li Yuanqing casually took out a high-grade spirit stone and placed it on the table. Originally, Wang Lin still had many complaints to say in his heart, but he was not as angry when he saw the spirit stones. However, he still felt a sense of danger. "Brother, I really treat you as my biological brother. That's why I told you that these sects are not fools. You've only been here for a short while. If you want to tamper with it, you'll definitely be discovered. You should restrain yourself." Although he said that, his hands were not idle. He carefully put the spirit stone into his pocket. Li Yuanqing smiled in satisfaction when he saw this. His expression changed and he said in frustration, "After thinking about it, I feel that something is wrong. I'm not too familiar with this place. I'm afraid that if I go to the black market, I'll be ambushed or bumped into by my fellow disciples. Wouldn't this matter be exposed? So you should plant the medicine properly first." Li Yuanqing looked at Wang Lin bitterly and complained, "Senior brother Wang, you don't know. The rules of this sect are really too strict. I accidentally broke 2 vines. There are so many gaps, and I don't dare to go to the black market. The only person I can trust is you. My production is only so much. There's not much. Didn't senior brother say that he could get the materials issued by the clan sect to make his own medicinal field?" Wang Lin's face twitched slightly as he cursed in his heart. Back then, when he saw the treasure, he spoke too quickly and was remembered by this kid. "I'm just saying that perhaps those things can be used. Senior brother, since you're going to sell them in the black market, why don't you sell the fruits you planted to me? This way, we'll be happy." Wang Lin carefully sized up Li Yuanqing again. Why was this kid so arrogant at such a young age? How many spirit stones could he have in his hands? Seeing that there was a chance, Li Yuanqing immediately said, "Look, only you know about this. No one else will know, and it will save a lot of trouble, right?" Wang Lin narrowed his eyes and said carefully, "I only have a little more. If you really have a gap, I can fill it." I wonder how much did others bid when you went to the black market to sell? The price in the black market is slightly higher than outside because the quality here is high. Most of the time, it costs 3 or 4 high-grade spirit stones for 100 fire spirit fruits. Wang Lin thought that Li Yuanqing would not be able to take much. At least he would be able to cut him. Li Yuanqing grabbed Wang Lin's outstretched hand. Senior brother, I'll give you 5 spirit stones. Sell all your fire spirit fruits to me in the future. All of them? That's right, all of them. Why do you want so much? Senior brother, don't worry about that. Li Yuanqing regretted it as soon as he said that. He thought for a moment and explained, I just arrived and wanted to make a name for myself in the sect. Wang Lin nodded in realization and immediately persuaded, little guy, don't say that I didn't remind you. Even if you stand out, the masters in the sect won't like you. You should try your best to increase your cultivation. Isn't it much better to use high-grade spirit stones to cultivate than to use them on this? Since you have already agreed, don't say anything else. I know my limits. Seeing that it was useless to persuade him, Wang Lin let him be. Although he did not know why this kid had so many spirit stones and came here to work at the medicinal field, he was most satisfied that all the spirit stones of this stupid kid were in his storage bag. In any case, this little fool was already like this. No matter where he went, he would be cheated of spirit stones. Others could cheat him of these spirit stones, so why couldn't he? Are you really going to get 100? I mean, Wang Lin was stammering when Li Yuanqing looked at him firmly and said, Senior brother, I want as many as you have. I have plenty of spirit stones here. As long as you can take them out, give them all to me. You have to think carefully. This is not as simple as 1 or 2 spirit stones. Wang Lin felt that something was wrong. There was something wrong with this kid's brain. Senior brother, you don't have to worry. Keep all your fruits for me. I'll prepare the spirit stones now. As Li Yuanqing spoke, he took out 20 spirit stones and placed them on the table. This is the deposit. It would be best if you have enough. After Li Yuanqing threw down the deposit, he left Wang Lin in a hurry and stared in the direction Li Yuanqing had left with his mouth agape. He turned around and arrived in a very dark passageway. After walking along the passageway for a long time, it suddenly became clear. A few huge pearls were embedded in the wall, along with the mountainside and the outside world. The light from the high sun outside passed through these pearls and scattered evenly on the large medicinal field below. Wang Lin had actually dug out so many fields in the mountainside. He walked through the medicinal fields and looked at the fire spirit fruits that were about to ripen. There were probably more than 1,000 fire spirit fruits in every medicinal field. Although the fields here were not as vast as outside, there were still dozens of them. This time, his gains were too great. The price of fruits outside was unstable to begin with. Sometimes, people would give him 2 spirit stones for 100. He had no choice. However, Li Yuanqing was really rich now. He directly shouted out the price of 5 high-grade spirit stones. This was more than twice the stable price. No matter what kind of situation this kid was in, it was enough for him to earn so much at once. At most, he would run away after making this last sum. In any case, he already vaguely felt that his actions were about to be exposed. In that case, there's no need to hide it anymore. At this moment, Wang Lin had already walked to the center of the field, a circular area. He gently leaned down and pressed his hand to the ground, chanting. Slowly, the ground lit up with rays of light in the field. Those lights seemed to be suppressed by something and could not be released. The spiritual energy in these fields was not as dense as outside. However, at this moment, Wang Lin suddenly opened his eyes and stuffed 5 huge spirit stones onto the control array disk. A powerful force instantly burst out. Domain space. The 2 cocoons that were originally floating in midair emitted a very faint sound and slowly began to crack. Li Yuanqing's figure flashed and appeared in front of the cocoon, silently watching the 2 of them. According to Zhao Baoyun, after consuming the medicine, they would be able to complete the transformation in half an hour. However, the medicinal power of his pills was clearly not enough. Fortunately, Li Yuanqing was prepared and replenished a lot of energy before the 2 of them could successfully advance. The difference between the immortal world and the lower realm was that the purity of the power was much stronger. In the eyes of the immortal world, it was ordinary spiritual energy. However, if it was in the body of a person from the lower realm, it would become a very strong poison that could easily shatter their meridians. This was also the reason why people who ascended from the lower realm had to experience a process of purifying their power and allowing their bodies to slowly undergo a transformation. Two graceful figures appeared from the cocoon. The outer cocoon also turned into two pieces of smoke and was absorbed into their bodies. Hujuju slowly opened her eyes and looked at the familiar domain space in front of her. Her consciousness gradually became clear. Master? Hujuju looked at Yuanqing in a daze. It was like a dream. She felt like she had experienced it for a very long time. She did not know how long it had been. Li Yuanqing took out a top-grade spirit stone and placed it in Hujuju's hand. A very pure energy followed Hujuju's meridians and fused into her body strand by strand. Under the warmth of this power, the meridians that were slightly torn just now slowly calmed down. Hujuju slowly closed her eyes and slowly absorbed the power in the spirit stone. The power of body tempering was really not to be underestimated. Hujuju had been specially trained by Li Yuanqing before she entered. She was at the 5th grade formation arrangement realm. After consuming this pill, coupled with Li Yuanqing's medicinal effect, her cultivation level increased by 2 levels, directly reaching the 7th grade formation arrangement realm. Li Yuanqing had poured 2 big bowls of water into the 2 little fellows, Little Dot and Spirit Child, yesterday. They slept until now. Their bodies were hot, and their bodies seemed to have become bottomless pits. The power outside kept pouring into their bodies. This situation lasted for a long time before it calmed down a little. The 2 of them were about to touch the threshold of the formation arrangement realm. What was the use of this so-called divine origin water? Judging from the current situation, it seemed to have a stable growth effect on plants. Spirit Child's true form was the blood vine, so it was normal for him to be catalyzed. However, Little Dot was a Dharma treasure, so he could actually benefit from it. This made Li Yuanqing very puzzled. The ball of smoke beside Little Man was still incomplete. There was always a wisp of smoke lingering around her body, and her brows were furrowed. The power in her body was not flowing smoothly. In the beginning, Li Yuanqing did not think too much about it. However, this power was still entangled in a certain part of her body. As time passed, Little Man's breathing became even more hurried. Seeing that something was wrong, Li Yuanqing took out drops of water from the water bottle and placed them in the alchemy furnace below. He diluted it with the juice of the spiritual herbs and stimulated a misty fog to wrap around Little Man. The light green fog slowly seeped into Little Man's body through her pores. A very unreasonable power gathered in her body. That power was very domineering. After entering Little Man's meridians, it followed a specific route and firmly rushed forward, directly clearing the blocked meridians in Little Man's body. Little Man's frown gradually relaxed, and her cultivation slowly began to rise. In the past, Little Man was only at the 8th grade spirit transformation realm. Later on, Li Yuanqing used some methods to help Little Man advance to the formation arrangement realm. This was not all. He even forcefully raised Little Man's cultivation by 3 grades and brought her cultivation to the 3rd grade formation arrangement realm. This also caused Little Man's cultivation foundation to be very unstable. Even with Li Yuanqing's multiple defenses, Little Man almost did not survive. Fortunately, she was saved by the divine origin water. After a long time, Little Man finally opened her eyes. Although she was still very weak, her complexion was much better than when she first came out. Master, Little Man said weakly and timidly. I felt like I was dead just now. I felt like the meridians in my body were about to be torn apart. Later on, something suddenly entered my body and saved me. Li Yuanqing clicked his tongue in wonder. He looked at the big bottle in his hand that was filled with such pure divine origin water. If the medicinal effect was so great, how many spirit stones would he earn from these 100 bottles of divine origin water? How do you feel now? I feel that although the strength in my body is still a little weak, it has increased greatly compared to before. Master, what method did you use just now? Little Man looked at the bottle in Li Yuanqing's hand with a slightly aggrieved and afraid expression, but she could not help but lick her lips. This divine origin water seems to be very helpful to plant-type demon beasts. Do you think your body changed after you consumed it? Little man thought in a daze. She stretched out an arm and suddenly transformed into a thick vine. These vines were very strong. In a short while, the thickest part had already swelled to 30 feet thick. I feel that my body seems to have become much stronger than before. Moreover, the speed of absorption is much faster than before. It's as if all the spiritual orifices in my body have been opened. Li Yuanqing saw that the effect of this drop of water was actually so good. He took out another drop from it and mixed it with a bowl of herbal juice for Little Man to eat. After Little Man drank the potion, she gently wiped the juice from the corner of her mouth and slowly closed her eyes. A blush rushed up in a moment. It first landed on Little Man's face, then the redness gradually spread, covering her entire body with a layer of red. In a short while, Little Man's entire body became red, and her eyes became more and more blurry. Her body could no longer sit still. Little Man's voice became weaker and weaker. In the end, she could not hold on anymore. She lay on the ground and fell asleep. This situation was exactly the same as the two little fellows yesterday. Li Yuanqing had thought that they would be able to absorb the medicinal effect so smoothly, but he did not expect that it would backfire. Even Little Man could not withstand such a powerful medicinal effect. However, at least he knew that Little Man would have a very good effect after consuming this divine origin water. That was enough. At this moment, a signal suddenly came from outside. Li Yuanqing's figure flashed and appeared in the medicinal field. At the entrance of the valley, Zhao Baoyun appeared with a tattered old man. Martial Uncle Wang, aren't you joking? This fire spirit fruit can only grow so big. Our sect has already tried our best to nurture it. So many apothecaries have worked hard for so many years, but I've never heard of anyone who can raise the fire spirit fruit to the size of a person. Zhao Baoyun looked at the old man with a frown. Although he had made some very unreasonable requests, he could not do anything to him. This old man had a deep relationship with the sect. The old man turned around and glared at Zhao Baoyun. Would I lie to you? Zhao Baoyun waved his hand repeatedly and said, Martial Uncle Wang, that's not what I meant. What I mean is it possible that those are fake herbs? The fire spirit fruit can only grow this big. It's definitely impossible for it to be that big. Li Yuanqing's expression immediately froze when he saw the old man. This old fellow was none other than the alchemist, Wang Lan, who had taken his two huge fire spirit fruits at the auction yesterday. Wang Lan was someone that everyone in the black market respected. Why was he here? Could it be that this old fellow had already discovered his identity or followed the smell? Li Yuanqing could not figure it out. However, from the looks of it, things might not be as bad as he thought. Senior brother Zhao. Li Yuanqing pretended to be relaxed and walked up to Zhao Baoyun. Zhao Baoyun waved his hand and called Li Yuanqing over. Martial Uncle Wang, look, he's new. He's the guard of this medicinal garden. If you want to do anything, just tell him. When Wang Lan saw Li Yuanqing, his eyes widened. He stared at Li Yuanqing from head to toe several times. Li Yuanqing cursed in his heart, but he did not show it on his face. Zhao Baoyun looked at Wang Lan strangely and asked, Martial Uncle, have you seen Junior Brotherly? After pausing for a moment, the old man returned to his casual appearance. He picked up the huge gourd and took a gulp. How would I know your disciple? Zhao Baoyun scratched his head awkwardly. I think so too. Martial Uncle, if you have anything, feel free to tell me. Although little junior brother has just arrived, he's still very serious. If you have anything, just call him. I still have something to do. Wang Lan waved his hand indifferently and said to him, If you want to get lost early. Don't dawdle with me. Martial Uncle, what are you saying? Zhao Baoyun said awkwardly, I indeed have some important matters to attend to. I really can't accompany Martial Uncle to investigate the fire spirit fruit. All right, I don't mean to blame you. You can leave if you want. I want to stay here for the next few days. I wonder if it's convenient. Li Yuanqing's face froze. He wanted to speak up and stop him, but he clearly had no right to stop him. Martial Uncle, look at what you're saying. You're old friends with the sect. You can stay here for as long as you want. I'll go back and tell Master. No one will disturb you later. Li Yuanqing's face twitched slightly. Why was this old man not planning to leave? From what he said, could it be that he was going to stay here for 10 days to half a month? It won't take that long. I'm not someone who has nothing to do all day. 3 to 5 days is enough. All right, that's settled. After Zhao Baoyan finished speaking, he carefully pulled Li Yuanqing to the side and reminded him, "Junior brother, this old senior is an important guest of the sect. Greet him well. No matter what request he has, try your best to satisfy him, understand?" Li Yuanqing asked curiously, "Is this old sir an elder of the sect?" "It's not that. Martial Uncle Wang is a rogue cultivator. He often walks around the sect because he has some interactions with the sect. Most importantly, Martial Uncle Wang is an alchemist of the Alchemy Pavilion, so we must respect him and not neglect him." Alchemy Pavilion? Zhao Baoyan knew that Li Yuanqing might not have heard of the Alchemy Pavilion when he saw Li Yuanqing's confused expression. It made sense since this kid had always been in the lower realm. "Isn't your master an alchemist? Didn't your master ever mention the Alchemy Pavilion to you?" "Senior brother, I haven't been with master for long, so there are many things that master hasn't told me yet." "Forget it. It's better for you to know less about these things now. It has nothing to do with you. You just need to serve this old senior well. Then everything will be fine. Perhaps your offerings next month can be reduced." Li Yuanqing's eyes lit up when he heard this. If there were fewer offerings, wouldn't he have more room to operate? Zhao Baoyan left in a hurry after giving a few simple instructions. Although he said that he should respect Wang Lan enough, it was impossible to tell that he really liked this sloppy old man. Li Yuanqing looked at the old man who was squatting in the field and staring blankly at the fire spirit fruit. For a moment, he did not know what to do. He did not know if this old man had already discovered his secret. When this old man came in just now, his expression was clearly not right. Just as Li Yuanqing was thinking, Wang Lan suddenly stretched out a hand and waved at him without looking back. Although Li Yuanqing had a grudge, he still walked over obediently and stood behind Wang Lan. The place where this old man was squatting was none other than where Li Yuanqing had moved the fire spirit fruit. Those fire spirit fruits had already grown very quickly and would soon fill this empty space. However, Wang Lan still caught them. "Senior, what can I do for you?" Li Yuanqing looked at Wang Lan's back carefully. Wang Lan pointed at the empty place and asked, "Little guy, do you know how this place was empty?" Li Yuanqing coughed lightly and replied, "Senior, this is because I neglected my duties and accidentally poured too much spiritual liquid into it, causing the fire spirit fruit to drown. Senior brother has already punished me." "Too much spiritual liquid?" The old man rubbed his chin and pondered. At this moment, he looked like a normal person. Did it become like this after pouring too much spiritual liquid? The old man muttered to himself, making Li Yuanqing very nervous. "Senior, is there any other reason?" "Actually, I just arrived. I'm not familiar with the operation and don't know anything. Do you think it's possible that the last person who left destroyed this place and I happened to encounter such an unlucky thing?" Li Yuanqing stuck his head out beside Wang Lan and looked at the empty place. Wang Lan turned to look at Li Yuanqing and suddenly smiled. "It's not impossible. I wonder where the vines you cleared are now. Can I take a look?" Li Yuanqing said in embarrassment, "Senior, I was furious when I saw those broken fire spirit fruits, so I used them all to refine spiritual liquid." The old man seemed to have expected this. He still had a smile on his face as he turned half of his body to face Li Yuanqing. "We don't have any clues now. If Senior wants them, I'll bring those dregs back later and let you take a look." Forget it. I won't look at those dregs." As Wang Lan spoke, he sat down on the field and took out his big gourd, taking a big gulp. Li Yuanqing looked at him carefully and asked tentatively, "Senior, are you here to investigate why I destroyed the fire spirit fruit?" Wang Lan burped and a strong smell of alcohol instantly filled the air. He looked at the medicinal field in front of him with a smile and said, "I don't care about the matters in your sect. I came here mainly because I discovered a new thing recently and wondered if I could plant some myself. May I know what Senior is talking about?" "You want to know?" "I'm just a little curious. If it's not convenient for you, then forget it." "It's not inconvenient. It just cost me 50 spirit stones." As Wang Lan spoke, he gently shook the wine pot in his hand. A fire spirit fruit that was more than half the height of a person immediately appeared beside him. The fire spirit fruit was still sealed with the array. The spiritual energy was sealed inside the fruit. Li Yuanqing pretended to be very shocked as he looked at the new thing in front of him. Senior, what is this? Why is it so huge? Wang Lan seemed to like Li Yuanqing very much. He did not mind Li Yuanqing's questions at all. He replied very kindly, "Actually, I've never seen such a huge fire spirit fruit in my life. It can be said that this treasure was bestowed by the heavens. However, this fruit is still incomplete and can't produce seeds, so I can only think of other ways." His words immediately attracted Li Yuanqing's attention. Li Yuanqing almost subconsciously asked, "What do you mean by incomplete?" Wang Lan narrowed his eyes and stared at Li Yuanqing's face, as if he was examining a criminal. Li Yuanqing grinned and asked in confusion, "Senior, why are you looking at me like that?" Wang Lan smiled and replied, "It's nothing. It's just that there haven't been many little fellows like you who are so eager to learn recently." "Is that so? I was just asking casually. If it's not appropriate, then pretend that I didn't say anything. There's nothing inappropriate about it. There's no harm in telling you." Wang Lan stretched out the wine gourd and stuck it to the middle of the fire spirit fruit. Actually, most of the medicinal herbs cultivated by large sects have been used to ensure that they won't be leaked so easily. The martial Yuan sect's fire spirit fruit can't grow mature seeds. "I see." Li Yuanqing heaved a sigh of relief. He thought that there was something wrong with the divine origin water. Wang Lan smiled mysteriously and continued, "However, although these large sects have their own methods, these methods are nothing in my eyes." "Then why did you come here, Senior?" Wang Lan picked up the gourd again and drank it. "Although I don't know what method this giant spirit fruit used to grow to such a huge size, there are some hidden dangers in this method of maturing. It will magnify its flaws and make its power unstable."
What?
What this old man said was strange. Li Yuanqing himself did not know these things. But why did he seem to have studied this fruit so deeply? Wang Lan ignored Li Yuanqing's expression and continued. "If this flaw was in the hands of others, it would probably become a hidden danger. If you're not careful, you'll easily hurt yourself. However, it doesn't matter to me. It's just that such an extreme growth period is very abnormal. So no matter what method you use, it's impossible to produce more seeds. Then I wonder if Senior has any way to crack it? That's easy. According to what I know, in the Spirit Grass Mountain Range, it's because of Lord Wangu. He has countless types of mushrooms. Many plants like mushrooms can coexist with other plants. There are also some talented ones among them. If we can find a matching mushroom, we can combine it with the plants after it was born. On one hand, the plants produced have enough power to nourish these symbiotic mushrooms. On the other hand, the mushrooms can produce scarce nutrients and provide them back. Both sides provide for each other and grow together. They can be said to be a match made in heaven. Li Yuanqing was mesmerized by the old fellow's description and silently memorized these keywords. Lord Wangu of the Spirit Grass Mountain Range. Wang Lan turned to look at Li Yuanqing and asked with a smile, "Little guy, you seem to be very interested in these things." "Is that so?" "Senior, I'm naturally interested in everything. Sometimes it's a good habit. Sometimes it can easily get you killed. Thank you for your guidance, Senior. I will definitely pay more attention in the future. Do you have any other instructions? If not, I still need to water these herbs today." Wang Lan leaned against the field and looked at Li Yuanqing with a red face. He burped and replied, "Go ahead. I'll study it here for a while. I'll call you when I need your help. Then I'll leave first." "Wait a minute." Li Yuanqing had just turned the corner when he was called down. "Senior, what other instructions do you have? Don't water it too much this time." "I will remember." Li Yuanqing hurriedly walked over. Wang Lan was still shouting at him from afar. "I think the hut beside you is not bad. Help me clean it up." Li Yuanqing looked gloomily at the abandoned hut beside him. This old fellow really planned to stay here. Could it be that this person had discovered something? He had said so much just now. Was he just saying it casually? However, this old fellow's pharmaceutical knowledge was very sufficient. Li Yuanqing could not figure out these things himself after a while. He did not expect there to be so many theories between plants. It seemed like there was really a need to make a trip to this so-called spirit grass mountain range. Otherwise, it would be a huge loss if there were really any hidden dangers. Of course, the fire spirit fruit did not matter, but little man and the others could not be affected. It took a lot of effort to water these thousands of medicinal fields once. Fortunately, after this watering session, the next watering session would be 10 days later. 3 times a month was enough to produce a batch of mature herbs. There were many very old roots here. Their roots actually extended thousands of feet underground. The medicinal fields were all built on the sect's spirit vein, which also guaranteed an adequate supply of spiritual energy. These herbs were produced by lying on the spirit vein and absorbing spiritual energy. No wonder they could grow so quickly. There were a total of 10 medicinal herbs planted in the medicinal garden under Li Yuanqing's jurisdiction. The greatest production were the fire spirit fruits and the stone worm grass. The stone worm grass was gray like a small stone stick and matured very quickly. Although this little fellow looked ordinary, it was the foundation of many pills. Generally speaking, the power of medicinal herbs was too ferocious and might be very stimulating to the human body. However, this stone worm grass played a neutral role very well. It could protect the human body and slowly release the medicinal effect. In addition, there were a few expensive herbs. Although these herbs were not used in large quantities, it was very difficult to nurture them, so it was very tiring. The most typical was the purple dragon root. It was said that 1,000-year-old purple dragon root had the effect of reviving the dead even if it was not refined into a pill. However, it was difficult to say if the effect was true. Li Yuanqing casually took a look and saw Wang Lan walking into the medicinal field. He dug out 2 purple dragon roots from the fat tree with his bare hands and stuffed them into his broken gourd. These 2 purple dragon roots were so fat that they must be the offerings that Li Yuanqing was going to submit next month. He did not expect them to be plucked out by this old man just like that. Li Yuanqing could not help but feel his heart ache. Before he could finish sighing, the old man was not idle at all. He ran to another piece and pulled out 2 white jade potatoes. He sat in the fields and started a fire. The roasted white jade sweet potato tasted very fragrant. A rich spiritual energy spread out everywhere. However, this strong smell was very charming. He was not done yet. He plucked the fruit that was about to ripen and stuffed it into his mouth. He could not stop working at all. It was as if he had been hungry for 100 years. Li Yuanqing could not help but feel his heart ache when he saw his actions. If he were to waste a field like this, it would probably be completely destroyed in 2 days. If he stayed here for 10 days to half a month, he would probably not be able to pay the tribute next month. However, it was hard to say that this was a bad thing. If he fooled around and lied about some more, would he be able to produce more fire spirit fruits? Just as Li Yuanqing was thinking, the old man suddenly remembered that he was here. He waved at him and summoned him. "Little guy, come over quickly. I still have some important things to do. Come and help. I wonder what other instructions do you have, senior? Sit here and chat with me. I told you so much just now, but I still don't know where you came from." Li Yuanqing smiled and replied, "Actually, I don't have much to say. My master is an alchemist. Later on, he passed away in the lower realm. I was left alone in the lower realm for many years. I finally found an immortal ascension door and secretly came up with such a method." "I see. In that case, you must know many herbs from the lower realm?" "I know a little." "Then do you know that there is a kind of wood called the divine dragon incense in the lower realm? It grows extremely slowly. After it matures, it will have a very rich fragrance when burned." "I've heard of it. Then do you have some in your hands?" "I haven't seen this divine dragon incense for many years. I still miss that smell." Li Yuanqing replied apologetically, "Senior, although I've heard of the divine dragon incense, I haven't had the opportunity to see it." "That's a pity." Wang Lan shook his head regretfully. What Li Yuanqing did not say was that there was a divine dragon core more than 10 feet long in his domain space. The fragrance of the divine dragon core was 10 times better than ordinary divine dragon incense. "I still remember many years ago, I once knew a good friend and learned from her that there was such a novel thing in the lower realm. I haven't seen this divine dragon incense since she left." Li Yuanqing sighed in his heart when he saw Wang Lan's reminiscent gaze. "That's a pity. However, This divine dragon incense can only be encountered by chance. There aren't many in the world to begin with. That's right. Aren't all things in this world hard to come by? If you encounter a benefactor who can change your life, you should firmly seize this opportunity. Wang Lan's words seemed to be continuing the topic just now, but he also looked at Li Yuanqing meaningfully, as if he was hinting at something. Li Yuanqing pinched the white jade potato that was roasted on the fire and tore it in half. A rich fragrance instantly assaulted his nose. "Senior, your white jade sweet potato is already cooked." Wang Lan took the fragrant white jade sweet potato and said with some emotion, "If this white jade sweet potato can increase to 10 times its size, what kind of flavor will it be?" "Senior, you must be joking. How can this thing grow so big?" "I didn't believe it in the past either, but now I'm starting to believe it. Or rather, I believe it very much now." As Wang Lan spoke, he stared at Li Yuanqing with a burning gaze. No matter how calm Li Yuanqing was, he could not help but swallow his saliva. "Senior, you really like to joke? I learned this from my friend in the lower realm. I thought you people in the lower realm like this." Wang Lan really stayed in Li Yuanqing's medicinal garden just like that. Every day, the old man would squat in the medicinal field and study something. When he was tired, he would lean against the ridge of the field and drink wine soup from the greasy gourd. The old fellow did not seem to have much thoughts about Li Yuanqing. The two sides lived in harmony. Li Yuanqing took care of his herbs every day as usual, while Wang Lan was busy with his own matters every day. What troubled Li Yuanqing was that not only was Wang Lan extravagant when he ate those medicinal herbs and spiritual fruits, but he also destroyed a lot of those things. In just a short while, Li Yuanqing heard another muffled sound. When he looked over, he happened to see thick smoke rising from the medicinal field. The thick smoke was gradually blown away by a gust of wind. A pile of flames had been ignited a moment ago, but now it was suppressed. This was not the first time Wang Lan had done something strange. Every time he used too much medicine, there would be an explosion in a small area, destroying several pieces of Li Yuanqing's medicinal field. Although Zhao Baoyun had previously instructed that the things Wang Lan destroyed should be borne by the sect, Li Yuanqing was still a little worried about the speed of his destruction. Outside the valley, a visitor arrived. Wang Lin stood mysteriously at the entrance of the valley and waited. He checked left and right, as if he was afraid that he would be targeted. After seeing Li Yuanqing come out, Wang Lin hurriedly wanted to walk into the valley, but Li Yuanqing stopped him. "Senior brother, you can't go in." Wang Lin looked at Li Yuanqing unhappily. "Why? Are you going back on your word?" "Of course not. It's just that it's not convenient in my valley now. I have a special guest." "What special guest made you so careful?" "I wonder if you had heard of Wang Lan's reputation?" "Madman Wang." Wang Lin's expression immediately changed when he heard this name. His suspicious expression disappeared. "Why is he here?" Li Yuanqing pretended to be helpless and replied, "I don't know either. This old senior said that he encountered a strange thing, so he wants to stay here for a few days and study it thoroughly. However, I haven't found anything yet." "Strange thing?" As Wang Lin spoke, he rubbed his chin. "Speaking of which, I heard some news when I went to the black market yesterday. It seems that a very strange thing has appeared on the market recently. I wonder who produced a huge fire spirit fruit. I really don't know how it was planted." "Is that so? What is this huge fire spirit fruit?" Li Yuanqing pretended to be curious. Wang Lin waved his hand and looked at him. "It's useless for you to know this. However, it seems to be related to Madman Wang. I didn't expect this crazy old man to come to you. Could it be that he still hopes that he has the ability to plant such a huge fire spirit fruit?" Li Yuanqing looked at Wang Lin deeply and heaved a sigh of relief. He saw that his disguise was still on point. "I think this old senior is muttering something about the fire spirit fruit. Moreover, he's been squatting in the field of the fire spirit fruit every day. He'd already destroyed quite a bit." Wang Lin thought for a moment, curled his lips, and shook his head. This old fellow is old. Whether it's his cultivation or alchemy, it's difficult for him to improve. Now, he's thinking of relying on some crooked methods to improve. I don't think his method will work. Although that's what Wang Lin said, he could not help but look behind Li Yuanqing, afraid that others would hear his words. Li Yuanqing looked at him and reminded him, "Senior brother, I wonder why you're here this time. Did you already have a conclusion to the matter we discussed?" Wang Lin glanced behind him again, then quickly took out a storage bag and stuffed it into Li Yuanqing's hand. "Brother, I have 1,000 mature fire spirit fruits here. I wonder if you have the appetite to eat them." 1,000? Li Yuanqing pretended to be very surprised, but he was actually a little disappointed. He thought that he could get more. "Senior brother, you actually have so much stock. I think it should be enough on my side. Moreover, in the past few days, Apothecary Wang has destroyed many fire spirit fruit fields. I'm afraid the gap here is bigger than I imagined. It would be best if senior brother had more." Wang Lin widened his eyes and looked at Li Yuanqing in confusion. But ordinary sects won't fuss too much about what this madman Wang did. Could it be that Zhao Baoyun said that you will pay for all these compensation? Senior Zhao didn't say anything, but I'm a little worried. What's there to worry about? The sect treats madman Wang well. The sect will clear all the shit he shits for him. You don't have to worry about it. These are enough for you. With that, Wang Lin stretched out a hand and waited. Li Yuanqing took out another storage bag and stuffed it into his hand. "Senior brother, there are 45 spirit stones inside. Coupled with the deposit I paid in advance, this should be enough, right?" Wang Lin had given Li Yuanqing some instructions in advance. In front of such a huge business and with such a generous price, it did not matter if he treated the previous ones as gifts. He was overjoyed to have obtained these 50 spirit stones just like that. "Junior brother, feel free to look for me if you need anything in the future. As long as I can do it, I will definitely not refuse. Then I'll take my leave today." On Wang Lin's side, he had to think of a way to sell the extra fire spirit fruits after selling these 1,000 fire spirit fruits. Since he had already completely released the array formation this time and did not intend to pretend anymore, he might as well sell everything. Just as he was about to leave, Li Yuanqing stopped him. "Senior brother, I wonder if you have more?" Wang Lin's expression suddenly froze as he looked at Li Yuanqing in confusion. "Junior brother, if you want to support the distribution of precious herbs, you can't underestimate their effects. These 1,000 fruits are enough for you to use for a long time. Thank you for your guidance, senior brother. I naturally know the profundity. However, since you have more and I have needs, why don't you sell them all to me? Wouldn't that be wonderful? But where did you get so many spirit stones?" "Senior brother, you don't have to worry about that." Li Yuanqing patted his chest confidently and promised, "Before my master passed away, he left behind a large sum of wealth. Senior brother, you know that my master is an alchemist, so I'm quite rich." Wang Lin's eyes suddenly lit up as he looked at Li Yuanqing. "Then what do you mean?" "If senior brother has other herbs, I'm interested in taking some. I have some, but it's about the spirit stones." "Senior brother, don't be anxious. I'll go get the spirit stones and send them to your residence in the next few days." "No problem, no problem. We're fellow disciples. We shouldn't let the good stuff go to outsiders. Of course I have to keep it for you." Although Wang Lin had been in the black market for so many years and knew that it was very dangerous to sell these goods to the same person, Li Yuanqing was really too fat. This little guy looked young, but he was rich and generous. He was really a fat sheep that people could not help but cut. "Thank you, senior brother." It's fine, it's fine. We're fellow disciples, so it's only right for us to help each other. Also, although Madman Wang is crazy, he more or less has some strength. The herbs he destroyed are nothing in the eyes of the sect. You don't have to take it to heart. I understand. After sending Wang Lin off, Li Yuanqing discovered in confusion that Wang Lan, who had been lying in the medicinal field all day long, had suddenly disappeared. He hurriedly went to look and found Wang Lan in a cave abode on the hill. There was originally no such cave abode here. However, the old man had dug a pit here himself. There was a large pile of soil and stones outside, destroying a large area of the medicinal field. Li Yuanqing looked at the strange deep pit and walked in. In the deepest part of the cave, the venue was much wider than the passageway outside. Wang Lan had dug an especially spacious place inside. He had erected a silver alchemy furnace here. The alchemy furnace was in the center. The 3 legs of the alchemy furnace were standing on the 3 fulcrums of the array formation below. Although this old man's clothes were usually sloppy, his alchemy furnace was abnormally clean and bright. The silver alchemy furnace was not stained at all. Under the illumination of the night pearl hanging on the four corners, the alchemy furnace looked even brighter. At this moment, there was a raging fire under the furnace. This fire was not produced by burning dry wood, but by the fire-gathering array formation below. The area outside the array formation was very flat, but the inner layer had a depression with many small rings tightening inward. Each ring was a jet of flames that spewed ferocious flames up from the lines of the rings. Moreover, the flames that shot out were very different in color. The color of the flames at the periphery was very light. It was a bright yellow color that erected a wall outside and surrounded the entire alchemy furnace. As it went further in, the color gradually deepened, and the deepest part was like a blue-purple color. Li Yuanqing stood carefully at the side. Wang Lan, that old man, was sitting in front of the alchemy furnace with his back facing Li Yuanqing. He had placed the wine gourd that never left his side and was leaning against the wall. At this moment, Wang Lan's withered palm suddenly stretched out, as if an invisible hand had pressed on the alchemy furnace. A white vapor spewed out from the side. The temperature on the side that had almost changed had decreased slightly, and the color had become calmer. When the temperature of the furnace was not high enough, Wang Lan would activate the array formation under his feet. The flames would flare up even more, increasing the temperature of the furnace to a suitable heat. A huge amount of water vapor filled the entire cave, slowly blurring everything. Fortunately, Li Yuanqing was strong enough to withstand the intense heat. It was unknown what kind of flame was spat out by the array formation under the old man's feet. The temperature was much higher than the flames used by Li Yuanqing to refine pills. Under the enhancement of this powerful flame, the process was relatively smooth. Not long after, the flames below gradually calmed down. The silver alchemy furnace gradually quietened down and stopped spitting out water. Wang Lan sat quietly in front of the pill furnace to recover his vitality. Refining such a pill consumed a lot of divine sense. Although it might look very calm on the surface, there was actually a storm. Li Yuanqing did not disturb him. He sat quietly at the side and waited for a rich medicinal fragrance to gradually spread out from the pill furnace. The fragrance gradually filled the entire cave and spread out. Not long after, Wang Lan slowly exhaled. He waved his hand, and the lid of the alchemy furnace soared into the sky with a clang. It fell to the top and did not move. More than 10 pills flew out of the alchemy furnace like pure white jade. The round, white, and flawless pills were still steaming hot. The medicinal fragrance kept spreading out. Just a whiff of it could clear one's meridians. Li Yuanqing looked at Wang Lan in surprise. He did not expect that this old man, who usually looked sloppy and did not do anything serious, would seem to be a different person when he touched the alchemy furnace. The purity of the pill refined was far from what Li Yuanqing could compare to. As expected of an experienced alchemist, Little Origin Pill, refined from 49 materials. It contains abundant spiritual energy. One pill can restore 10% of the strength of a peak formation arrangement realm cultivator. Wang Lan took out the bottle that he had prepared long ago. The dozen or so pills also lined up and landed in his bottle. In the end, he left one behind. Wang Lan gently pinched it between her fingertips, just in a place that Li Yuanqing could see very clearly. The price of this Little Origin pill varies according to the quality. The worst one can only be sold for 1 spirit stone. However, the purest one can be sold for 10 spirit stones. Li Yuanqing felt that Wang Lan's words were specially said for him to hear, but he did not understand why this old man would do this. Li Yuanqing gently clapped his hands and said respectfully, "Senior, your skills are superb. I've really broadened my horizons." When Wang Lan heard this, he shook his head and turned around. His old eyes were shining as he stared at Li Yuanqing. "No matter how proficient I am in alchemy, I can only refine such a pill with these herbs." "Senior, why are you saying this? Your skills are extraordinary. They are difficult for ordinary people to reach. Although I'm old, I'm still competitive. I wonder if you can fulfill my wish?" If this bottle of Little Origin Pill is sold in the black market's auction house, it can be sold for at least 100 spirit stones. Wang Lan stood up and walked to Li Yuanqing with the bottle. He slowly placed the bottle in front of Li Yuanqing. If you trust me and can tell me some news about that huge spirit fruit, this bottle of little origin pills will be yours. Li Yuanqing sat there and did not look at the bottle of pills. Instead, he looked at Wang Lan quietly. Senior, I don't understand what you mean. Little friend, are you still trying to lie to me? Do you know that although your concealment technique and transformation technique are superb enough, my nose is famous for being sensitive? The smell on your body is too strong. Then how can you be sure that I have something you want? If I bring this bottle of pills and leave, where will you find it? Wang Lan suddenly laughed out loud. Her laughter was more or less arrogant. Where do you think you can escape to? Maybe it's a place that Senior can't find. Wang Lan nodded slightly and looked at the pill bottle in his hand. Perhaps you can indeed escape to a place I can't find, but it's not for this bottle of pills. I wonder how much Senior wants to know about the clues of that huge spirit fruit? At this point, Li Yuanqing no longer avoided it. He took the small bottle and played with it in his hand. He even poured out a pill and swallowed it. This action stunned Wang Lan. This pill was worth at least 6 to 7 spirit stones. This kid had eaten it so casually. He was indeed generous. Wang Lan thought to himself that he was not wrong. This kid's background was indeed extraordinary. Li Yuanqing swallowed a little origin pill and instantly felt a rich heat in his stomach. The intense energy surged into his limbs, filling his entire body with powerful strength. This pill said that it could recover 10% of one's strength. The speed was quite fast. It instantly sent power to every limb. If he took one during a battle, it would also have some effects of strengthening his strength. Wang Lan narrowed his old eyes and smiled. It seems that you've eaten a lot of pills. You have such a cultivation at such a young age. I'm afraid it's a pity for you to be a servant here. Li Yuanqing slowly stood up. He had already put away the small bottle. He looked straight into Wang Lan's eyes and said to her, Senior, if you want to know the whereabouts of the huge spirit fruit, I can tell you. All right, I'll give you an additional spirit stone for every fruit in the future. Li Yuanqing raised his hand to stop him. I'm not very interested in spirit stones. However, there's one thing that Senior can help with. Wang Lan looked at Li Yuanqing with interest. This kid was getting more and more interesting. I wonder what you're talking about. Actually, it's very simple. Li Yuanqing looked up at the huge alchemy furnace behind Wang Lan. Wang Lan also took a look and said teasingly, Little friend, don't tell me you want my silver dragon alchemy furnace? Then I might as well tell you. Even if you take my life, I won't frown. But this silver dragon pill furnace, no one can have any ideas. Li Yuanqing smiled at Wang Lan and said, Senior, I'm afraid you've misunderstood me. Senior's alchemy furnace is indeed a supreme treasure. I naturally won't have any designs on it. I really want to become a true alchemist and want to ask you for help. Alchemist? Wang Lan's eyes revealed a hint of mockery. Don't tell me you want to rely on your job to become an alchemist? Senior, you don't have to worry about that. It's just that my master was once an alchemist, but my master left early and didn't bring me to the righteous path. Now that there's such an opportunity, I naturally want to take advantage of it. I see.
Wang Lan nodded gently.
He looked at Li Yuanqing and said, Your aptitude is indeed not bad and you're strong enough. Moreover, you're not old. Now is a good time to learn alchemy. However, since the person behind you has planted a huge spiritual fruit, why don't you ask him and let me do it for you? This is my private matter. Senior, you don't need to know, right? You just need to tell me if you have this method. Wang Lan thought for a moment and looked at Li Yuanqing. I have a way. If you want to be an alchemist, you naturally have to go to the alchemy pavilion to pass the assessment to obtain the reputation. I can introduce you to the alchemy pavilion, but I can't help you with the assessment. That's enough. Then what about the huge spirit fruit? Senior, you can go back first and wait for a while. Then you can go to the black market 3 days later. At that time, someone will bring the giant spirit fruit to trade with you. How many are there? It will be a number that can satisfy Senior. All right. With Li Yuanqing's promise, Wang Lan did not stay in the medicinal field anymore. He had been busy here for 2 days and realized that he could not figure it out no matter how hard he tried. This huge spirit fruit was still a problem that he could not solve. However, since he had accidentally encountered Li Yuanqing, he naturally did not have to worry about the number of spirit-gathering fruits in the future. He did not have to think about how to nurture them in the short term. Although Wang Lan had left, he had left behind a mess. He had been busy destroying the medicinal field every day, causing the entire place to be in chaos. Countless medicinal herbs had been destroyed. However, with Wang Lin's instructions, Li Yuanqing felt that this might not be a bad thing. Since all the losses could be blamed on Wang Lan, things would be easy. Li Yuanqing took out an entire bottle of divine origin water. His body hung in midair, and under his feet was a pool in the air. This pool was 1,000 feet square. Li Yuanqing poured the entire bottle of divine origin water into the huge pool. After a while, the water was mixed evenly. Countless transparent pipes stretched out from the pool and watered the injured or slightly damaged medicinal herbs. This method was extremely efficient. Soon, the entire medicinal field was watered. As long as there were any injured herbs, they became Li Yuanqing's target. After drinking the diluted divine origin water, the herbs below began to grow crazily. In order not to restrict their growth, Li Yuanqing even undid all the protective array formations outside, making their growth even more unrestrained. Many medicinal herbs surged into the sky and turned into huge plants, as if they wanted to reach the sky. All of this happened very quickly. After Li Yuanqing collected the mountain of fruits, he eliminated the plants that had already grown. These medicinal herbs and plants were all specially cultivated and could only be produced once. It was not a pity to directly remove them. The sect would distribute new ones every month. Moreover, the heavy losses this time were not Li Yuanqing's problem. He could completely apply for compensation from the sect. Li Yuanqing looked at the mountain of fruits in front of him and smiled. At first, he thought that this crazy old man, Wang Lan, was too annoying. Now, he inexplicably liked this old fellow. If Wang Lan can come once a month, wouldn't that save time and effort?
Li Yuanqing pundarat silanli.
Initially, he was still thinking of ways to chase Wang Lan away. But he wasn't thinking like this now. He was thinking of ways to trick this old man. When Zhao Baoyun arrived at the Jiuyuan medicinal garden again, he was stunned by the scene in front of him. Li Yuanqing clearly saw sweat on Zhao Baoyun's forehead, and his face turned green. "Senior brother, what's wrong?" Li Yuanqing stood at the side and asked carefully. Zhao Baoyun felt as if his throat was caked. His mouth was dry, and he finally squeezed out a voice after a long time. How did this happen?" Li Yuanqing took out the excuse he had prepared earlier and explained. Ever since Elder Wang arrived, he has been working hard in the field. He even took some random water to water it. Many of these herbs have been watered to death, and some of them look strange. Where are the herbs? Where did they go? I don't know what use Elder Wang has for those herbs, but he dug them all up and left behind a bottle of pills before he left, saying that he wanted to make up for the sect's losses. As Li Yuanqing spoke, he took out the bottle of little origin pills. There were only 10 of them, and he had secretly kept 5. Zhao Baoyun opened the bottle and saw the rich medicinal fragrance inside. It woke him up for the time being. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Although these little origin pills were precious items, they were only worth the money of a medicinal seedling after destroying his medicinal field. Li Yuanqing asked Zhao Baoyun worriedly, "Senior brother, what should we do about the offerings this month?" "I'm new and I'm afraid." Zhao Baoyun swallowed hard and said to him, "Don't be afraid. Elder Wang is our sect's esteemed guest. His losses will be borne by the sect. I'll count all the medicinal herbs lost later. It won't be on you." "Thank you so much, senior brother. I've been in fear for the past few days. I wondered what would happen if I couldn't pay my offerings this month." Zhao Baoyun frowned and came to the entrance of the valley. He began to count the losses below. This old man wasn't like this before. He muttered complaints as he looked at the tragic scene. In the past, when the old man came, he would at most use some medicinal herbs on the spot. However, this time, it was as if he was cultivating here and blew up the entire medicinal herb field. However, it might be because the old man felt a little guilty that he left behind such a bottle of pills as compensation. In the past, Wang Lan would never take the initiative to leave behind any pills or make up for it. At most, he would refine pills and prioritize trading with their sect. This was already a huge discount. Why does the growth of these herbs seem to be slower than before? Zhao Baoyun frowned as he looked at the scene in the medicinal field in front of him. The spiritual energy that was so dense that it could drip water in the past had become much thinner. The spiritual energy was now covered in a thin layer. The medicinal herbs that were originally very vigorous had withered a little. Li Yuanqing explained, "I don't know what old senior did either, but he has been busy in this medicinal field for a long time. I think he must have planted something, right?" "I see." Zhao Baoyun carefully checked all the medicinal fields. In the end, he recorded his losses and left in a hurry. After sending this senior brother off, Li Yuanqing hurriedly returned to the medicinal field. Li Yuanqing began to worry as he looked at the herbs that had clearly dried up. The medicinal herbs grew too fiercely after consuming the divine origin water. Not only did they absorb a large amount of spiritual energy from the mineral vein underground, but they also snatched away more than half of the spiritual energy gathered by these array formations. This caused the surrounding medicinal herbs to lose a lot of spiritual energy sources, causing their growth to slow down. From the looks of it, it could not be too heavy in a medicinal field. Moreover, the frequency had to be within a safe range. Otherwise, it would not be worth it if he sucked the herbs beside him to death. 1,000 miles away, in a dark cave abode in the core area of the Five Clouds, a group of Martial Yuan sect disciples was busy. At this moment, a group of people gathered in front of them, arguing enthusiastically. How is it possible that no one crawled into the mineral vein? If outsiders didn't steal our spiritual energy, how could so much spiritual energy be sucked away from this mineral vein? But after our people checked, there were indeed no traces of damage. It's more like the array formation above has absorbed too much. But the 18 yuan line is all medicinal gardens. Even if those herbs grow fiercely, how much can they absorb? Is it possible that someone used the spirit-gathering array of that medicinal herb to secretly absorb the spiritual energy in the mineral vein? If that's the case, it's still possible. However, only plants can absorb and use that spirit-gathering array. Who can use it to steal spiritual energy? Well, for a moment, everyone fell silent. They really could not understand why the 18 yuan spirit vein, which had not had any problems for a long time, had suddenly lost a large amount of spiritual energy. Pay close attention first. When the next time the spiritual energy disappears greatly, control the 18 yuan line. We must find the reason for the loss of this spiritual energy.